Welcome to my world. Come on in and make yourselves at home. Welcome to my life. I know everything's gonna be alright. Welcome to my world. Oh, won't you come on in? Welcome to my life. It's known as the Tiger's Den. Greetings to all of my subscribers. I want to thank you for being with me for as long as you have, and the new subscribers that's coming on in. We want to say greetings and thank you for your time. This is from Toothless and the moderators. Welcome to the Tiger's Den. Greetings and welcome to the Tiger's Den. Hi, Tasha. Glad you're here. And whoever else is in here with us. If you're in the bushes, in the trees, on the beach in Aruba, Belize, on the cruise ship, or you're just somewhere sitting and waiting on the eclipse tomorrow, welcome. Fani Willis, she has really helped me out this season, I would say. She brought me some new individuals, and I truly appreciate you guys. I try to give you what I have, and what I like to do is teach and try to give facts and information so that we can know how to navigate through this system. And, we're all wanting her to go away from all of these RICO cases that she's bringing about. But I kind of want to talk to, and I know that we're all not in Atlanta, and maybe nobody's from Atlanta is watching, but these people are going to have to vote soon on the judges, on the DA, and they should really be mindful of what they're voting on. She says every time she makes a speech or every time she sends a letter, she says it's in honor of the people who put her in office, which I beg to differ with her, because her jail system is one of the worst jail systems in the world. Now, it is not her jail. It belongs to the sheriff department. I understand that. Where the problem lie, I want to cut the music down a little bit. And I basically play music because when we use other people's videos or stuff like that with YouTube, we have to do something to alter them in some type of way. And I'm not an editor, and so the best way I know how to do it is to try to put on the closed captions, and when they offer the closed captions, and then add music so that it will be altered. We have fair use, and we're able to use other people's material, but YouTube really want to know what can you do and what are you doing for your show. And so that's the best I can do, and it has worked for me. And so I'm grateful for that. Don't forget to hit the like button as you enter. Consider being a member. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed. In my memberships, one of the things that I do is give away a free massage once a month to someone that has massage envy in their town. I can't get a lot of my members to tell me that they have a massage envy in their town, but I have been able to give away at least 6 massages, and they have enjoyed them. So that's one of the perks, and then I have discounts on my t-shirts and cups and keychains and things of that nature. But I want to talk about, everybody's saying, will the court get rid of her? Will the appeals? A lot of people are just mainly concerned about the injustice that she seemed to be doing to former President Trump and the rapper Jeffrey Williams, Young Thug. And I agree. But I'm talking about the people that voted her in office, that she swore to bring justice to um, their streets. And that just has not rang true. And so I want to talk about this system that they have. You know, I've showed you guys how she got all this money, and she said she needed money for more DAs and more investigators and for more programs that she's going to put in place that she never has. But she said she was. And believe it or not, her commissioners have given her plenty of money. They've even given plenty of money to the sheriff for the jail deplorable conditions to bring them up to par. But I want to talk about that, and so I hope that's something that you guys are interested in, because like I said, I like to educate. I don't just like to talk about people or just put them down even in their wrongdoing. Hopefully that they will come to their senses and change their wicked ways. But of course, I can't make them do it, but I can certainly expose what I see, and hopefully somebody will learn something. But you guys should really start paying attention to the people that you have to vote in office, and see what their record looks like and see what they're responsible for. We can Google this stuff now. We don't have to go deep diving. We can actually just Google, and you can even join your public library online, even your state library, and even the Library of Congress. You can do that online. Hi, Charlene. Glad you're here. So I wanted to share some information because I don't know if you guys are aware, but they had another inmate that was unalived this couple of days ago, and he was stabbed. So we want to see, why is this? You know, I showed you guys a little while back an interview that she did, and I'm going to show an interview of this guy where he calls their jail the Gitmo, which is short for, you know, Guantanamo Bay. I think it's Guantanamo Bay in Cuba, where they keep the military prisoners. But that's what they're calling this jail, because it is just that detrimental, and the conditions are deplorable. And I showed y'all a meeting that she went to when she was asking for the money for these additional attorneys she was going to hire, but she ended up hiring Nathan Wade and giving him $700,000 on his own. And then we're not going to even mention the $420 an hour that his partners made together. And he got a third of that, which he claimed they got a third of his $700,000. I don't know if that's true or false, but that's a lot of money that those guys were getting, and none of it went to the inmates. And so it's really kind of sad if you have a loved one in prison. Maybe if you have nobody in prison, it doesn't mean anything to you. And today, I don't know anybody I'm just real close to, but my ex-husband was once in prison, and then I helped a lot of people that were incarcerated get in touch with their families. So it's something that's near and dear to me, because I think that we should not forget the least of these, because no matter who you think they are loved by somebody, even if they messed over them. Let me see. Charlene said, saw the sheriff is asking for TPO on an activist, L.A. Pink, in Fulton County, because she's on his neck. Yes, she is. I saw her on Judge Joe Brown's show one night on The Real Dinah. And boy, she was fantastic. But she's just advocating for the people and holding them to the mat. And so that's what these people do. What does he need with the TPO from that lady? And they're just calling him out on what he's not doing and what he's promised to do. He took office the same year that Fani took office. They took office in 2021. And they made all of these promises and what they were going to do. And this gentleman, he did interviews with all of the big heads. And the big heads would be Fani Willis is the DA. Sheriff Labatt is the sheriff. Um, uh, Chief Justice Glanville is the one who's over Young Thug's trial, but he's also over all the judges. And then we have the commissioner. And these were very interesting interviews. I contacted StreamYard to see if it was something that could be wrong with my connection. And what they said is I'll probably need to hook up with the Ethernet. And the Ethernet is where you plug into your router or whatever it is. And I'm not close to it, so I'm going to have to figure out a way to make that happen. So if I show something, it may be buffering, but I'll do my best to keep it moving like I have in the past. And I thank y'all for staying with me, watching it go in and out. But when I look back at my video, it doesn't look too bad because it comes right back. So I appreciate y'all for putting up with just a moment of interruption, because you would like for everything to be smooth as can possibly be. Yeah, they're bothered by her truth. That's what's bothering them. And then she's not afraid. And see, that's what's wrong with a lot of us. We're afraid to get involved. But if the attack is as blatant as the attack is on us as a people, then we cannot get involved in something that is simple as writing a letter. You know, if you don't want to be seen. Something is as simple as making a phone call. But I found that writing a letter works, especially if you write the letter in the right tone and stick to the subject at hand. It really helps. And it shows somebody that, you know, somebody cared and was trying to, you know, change the things. A lot of people really don't understand how important documentation is. Hi, Angela. But they do stuff to us in documentation. So you have to meet them with documentation. But you have to be very careful in what you document and be as truthful as you can. But if you're just making a complaint, then whatever you write is your complaint. You just watch the tone in which you write it. That's all that, amounts to. But people want to say that they want the court to get rid of her, the appeals court. The people can get rid of her. They don't have to vote for her. If they look at her record, look at her promises, and look what she's delivered. She delivered a lot of aggressive, hostile speech and a lot of cute little shenanigans, but she's not delivering on her promise. And that's what we're going to talk about. They have people that are still in that jail that's been locked up for over a year and has never been indicted. So I'm a person that I believe words are very important, and I believe you should know the definition of words. And so I don't mean to make anybody feel less than their intelligence. I just like to come from a place of intelligence. Just in case you're like myself, we hear arraignment, we hear arrest, we hear charges, we hear indictment, we hear these things, but do we really understand what they mean? And if we're not a part of that world, then we may know the definition just because we were readers or, we learned words when we were in school. But if it's something that doesn't really affect you personally, you're probably not really too interested in it and don't give those definitions a thought. But when you can put a definition to a word and then see how these people who keep claiming they have all of these constitutional power, but they're not giving the constitutional power to the people. Hey, Yasatar, good to see you. I'm glad you stopped by. But, they don't give you that constitutional power, which we all have the right. Constitution does not give us our rights. It secures our rights. It is supposed to be in place to ensure that our rights are actually not violated. And that system, and we all probably could tell a jailhouse story about the city in which we live, but this is one of the saddest ones I've heard, and I haven't heard about many. But hearing about this and going after these, big name people with 20 and 30 defendants, but you got people been sitting in your jail for two people were there 10 years and never been indicted, meaning formally charged. Houston, we have a problem. I mean, that's a real big problem. Imagine being arrested, going to jail, and you can't get out because you've never been charged with anything. That's actually kidnapping. That's what that definition is. They have taken you from your liberties. And again, you don't have to be doing anything wrong for this to happen to you. That's why we need to know what we need to do if it happens to us or someone we love, because we never know. It could be either one of us at any given time. We used to say they didn't really do this kind of stuff to women, but that's not true today. It's happening to us more and more. So I wanted to start, and that's one of the biggest things with me, y'all. I am the most disorganized, perfect, I would say perfectionist that I know. How is that good to see you? I really have issues in my head, and I have all this thing, and y'all don't know what I do to plan and stuff. It feels like I'm going to work every day at the IRS, which is where I retired some 13 years ago, but that's what it feels like. I'm putting my cases together. I was a revenue officer, and sometimes that's exactly what I feel like. Bing bong. Hi, Popcat, whoever you are. As long as you're respectful, you can stay. Disrespectful, you gotta go. But it's good to see you. Be sure to hit the like button while you're here. So, I want to start with this article. Now, this happened back in October. Oh, I am. I hope you're having a good day, too. October 31st, 2023. So all of this stuff has just been happening since they decided, the DA decided to take on a task of RICO for Donald Trump and Young Thug. And it's a method to that madness. I don't believe it has anything to do with the law. I told y'all about Melanie King, and I even showed y'all her video the other day. I wish y'all would go and check her page out. She has the report on there that it is like about 28 pages, and she tried to go through the whole document, and they're explaining and breaking down how these people did nothing right. So there's no way these people could have committed fraud. They were really inquiring because there's really some real concerns, and it's several people that are filing, some call them amicus briefs, some call them amicus briefs. They say it's Latin, so however they pronounce it, but it's briefs are friends of the court, meaning that they don't have really a dog in the fight, but they are in a position where they can speak on an issue, and they filed a brief to ask the court to listen to whatever, the document, like in this case, it's the appeal. They asking the court to please consider the appeal. And so it does help. It does work. Charleston White once worked on an amicus brief with children in the state of Texas, which made it possible for children all over, supposedly, the states, where if you're under 17, you don't get the death penalty. And at one time, they were given that for children under 17. And of course, that the brain don't fully develop in children until they're about 25 years old. And so, they may do wrong and they know right from wrong, but they may not have a concept of what wrong they've really done and the consequences of their actions. But we do know that people do know right from wrong if they have the capacity to think. But children don't have the capacity to think as an adult. And sometimes we as adults can't think straight. We might want to get it right. We might want it to be right, but we may not get it right all the time. And that's true. Some people really are just misunderstood. So very true. So here we go. We're going to talk about this because this jail has been overcrowded for a very good while, and ever since this sheriff took office. Okay. Judge rules on if the sheriff can move Fulton County Jail inmates out of state. And this is by Fox 5 Atlanta Digital Team, updated October 31st, 2023. Atlanta Fulton County judge says there was not enough evidence that moving inmates out of the Fulton County Jail to an out-of-state facility would cause harm to the inmates or their cases. The ruling came down on Monday after a lawsuit filed by Atlanta Judicial Circuit Public Defender Maurice Kenner against the Fulton County Sheriff Pat Labatt. Kenner, whose office represents about 95% of all inmates in the jail, argued moving the inmates out of the state would impact his office's ability to communicate with those inmates to build a defense. Judge Scott McAfee, and we know his name, don't we, wrote in his ruling, the evidence at trial failed to demonstrate a failure to perform an official duty or a gross abuse of discretion. I am optimistic that we can move forward in true partnership between my office and the Public Defender's Office to provide effective service to the inmates in our custody, regardless of where they are physically housed. Sheriff Labatt was quoted in a statement sent to Fox 5. The Fulton County Sheriff's Office remains committed to improving the safety of our inmates and improving conditions in our jail facilities. So far, no inmates have been moved out of the state and cannot legally do so. Fulton County Jail overcrowding woes. Overcrowding has been a severe issue over the last few years. As an effort to relieve it, the sheriff has been moving some inmates to other county jails. As of this week, the jail population was down to 1,996 from 3,069 in January 2021. About 400 of those were transferred to the Atlanta City Detention Center, and more were sent to facilities in Cobb, Oconee, and Forsyth counties, as well as the other jail locations. The sheriff says only 25 inmates were sleeping on portable beds. The sheriff also said they've worked with criminal justice partners to move people through the system. However, the current numbers are still nearly doubled the 1,125 capacity for which the building was originally built. The sheriff says he is committed to finding solutions for overcrowding. In July, the U.S. Department of Justice announced it would begin investigating operations at the jail after reports of deplorable living conditions at the facility. And when I tell y'all it's deplorable, please believe it's deplorable. Okay, So now that's what the sheriff said. Let me come down. That's what the sheriff said. Hey, so Alicia. Hey, Madria. Hey, Angelo. Good to see y'all. Okay, let's see where we are here. What I've done is I went and I just kind of searched Georgia and Fulton County and how that's supposed to work for them. Like I said, we had one inmate that unfortunately met his fate a couple of days ago. And the saddest part about it, these people, when they came and went to jail, they didn't come to jail for the death penalty. These people have not even been arraigned. The majority of them have not been indicted nor arraigned. And so I look those words up so we can know what they mean, because we hear them and sometimes they're synonymous to each other. But if we really don't know what they're talking about, it just sounds good, but makes for a good movie line, but we don't know what they're talking about. We just say, I mean, that's what I do. So I said I would just show a small one. And I don't know if I'll be able to put my closed caption on because it's not on YouTube, it's on their website. But I'll do my best. Yeah, it's on that one. So that's good.
Inmates stabbed to death inside the troubled Fulton County Jail. We first brought this to you as breaking news last night.
Atlanta News First, Rebecca Schramm is live at the jail on Rice Street in Northwest Atlanta. Rebecca, police think that another inmate killed that man. Not what this jail needs. It's seen a lot of trouble already.
You know, Gavir and Brooks, you have to remember, this is a jail that's already under review by the U.S. Justice Department. 10 people died in custody in 2023 alone, and now this, an apparent murder inside the jail walls. Here's what we know. According to the Fulton County Sheriff's Office, an inmate by the name of Edward Cherry, 36 years old, attacked another inmate who was housed in the same zone. It happened at about 6:30 yesterday evening in the day room of that zone. The inmate was rushed to the hospital but did not survive. The sheriff's office says the inmate who died had been in jail since early January on a criminal damage to property charge and was being held without bond. The inmate who fatally stabbed him, according to the sheriff's office, had been held without bond for 4 years on numerous charges, including aggravated assault and kidnapping. A couple of months ago, we spoke with a former inmate at the Fulton County Jail. He said it was a living nightmare because you're fighting for your life every day.
You have doors that's not being locked. You have security personnel that's not showing up to work. You have classifications not doing their job. So here you have a person who's arrested for jaywalker that's in a cell with somebody who's arrested for a double homicide. Jail is jail. Again, it's supposed to be a rehabilitation center, but again, it's nothing like that.
Now, authorities are not yet releasing the name of the deceased inmate. They want to make sure his family knows about this first. The county medical examiner's office will conduct an autopsy. Live at the Fulton County Jail, Rebecca Schramm, Atlanta News First.
I hope y'all could hear that clear. I don't know. I thought I had put my mic on mute. Could y'all hear that clear? Hey, Phil, it's good to see you. I don't know if y'all could hear that clear. I hope y'all could because I didn't put my mic on mute. I thought I had my mic on mute. Oh, okay, that's good, Maria. Thank you. So, y'all, can you imagine your loved one going to jail for whatever reason and this happening to them? And then you have a woman that's on this TV talking about that she's gonna take President Trump to task over trying to overthrow an election that they say he did not win. He's not the president. And you're still wasting thousands and millions of dollars when you have this situation. Now, she doesn't control the jail, and if she was doing her job, it would be possibly even more crowded. I don't know. But these people are locked up, and they've never been formally charged. Never. Man, I can't imagine that. Alicia, you could? Ooh, man, I would just hate to think of that. So, I went to look at one of her promises that she told the people when she was coming, for office. And I'm going to share the promises with you guys. If you have anybody that you love that lives in Georgia, in Fulton County, you should tell them to really start doing their homework because they're going to be voting on these people in May. And I think she has an opponent, and they may need to just look at really what they're dealing with. Yeah, it really should be, Tasha. I don't even think it is because these people on YouTube in our area, they think she's a shero, and I don't get it. I think that they all lunatunes that think that she's a shero, but that's just one woman's opinion. Okay. Here we go. This is the trial division. Basic steps in a criminal case. The defendant is arrested. Once police have probable cause, they will make an arrest. Upon being arrested, the accused will be booked at the police station or jail. This process includes fingerprinting, interviews, and photographs. Number 2, arraignment and bail. The defendant makes their first court appearance at the arraignment. During arraignment, the judge reads the charges filed against the defendant. This is also when bail and the next court appearance is set. Pre-trial hearings. A court hearing is hearing to resolve issues in advance of a trial. That's when they try to get you to plea bargain. Remember plea bargain, your Sixth Amendment right? That they're trying to take away your right to a trial? Okay. Courts sometimes will accept entry of pleas of guilty or no contest at these hearings. Number 4, trial. If the defendant pleads not guilty and a plea agreement isn't reached, the case moves on to the trial phase. During the trial, a judge or jury reviews the case to determine the defendant's guilt or innocence. Sentencing. If a guilty plea has been entered or the case has been tried and convicted by a judge or jury, the sentencing is the next phase. Determining the length and severity of the punishment to fit the crime is a complex process. Y'all, I'm sorry, these words are a little, and I got on my reading glasses, but I can't hardly see them. Okay, so we got the trial. So let's go to the trial division of Fulton County. Case intake. I want y'all to hear these are the things that the lady promised the people when she came aboard. The Fulton County District Attorney 2021 is establishing an entirely new case intake unit of the office. The first and most important change to the division will be the staff. The district attorney is bringing seasoned investigators and lawyers to this unit. She is literally committed to putting hundreds of years of law enforcement, prosecutorial experience into this unit through her hand-picked staff. This unit is the very foundation of the office. The case intake unit shall have a seasoned prosecutor review the case upon receipt. The seasoned prosecutor will have the mission of Madam District Attorney Fani Willis in mind when looking at every case. Files will no longer just be files, but there will be an appreciation that each of those cases impacts the lives of people within our community, and as such, the victim, the witnesses, and the accused will all be treated with dignity from day one. The first responsibility of the prosecutor will be to team up with an equally seasoned, skilled investigator, and they will thoroughly investigate the case, collecting all necessary evidence for a successful prosecution. After investigation, the prosecutor will make a proper recommendation for the case. Each case shall be referred for felony indictment to the solicitor's office for misdemeanor accusation, or to her innovative 2021 pre-indictment diversion program, which they said have never gotten off the ground. If evidence cannot be established beyond a reasonable doubt, the case shall not be pursued. Non-complex unit. The non-complex division prosecutes approximately 60% of all felony cases in Fulton County. This division focuses on lower-level felony offenses. The new administration will focus its efforts on curbing the repeat offenders who plague our communities by repeatedly breaking the law. This office is committed to prosecuting these persons with vigor and opposing the cycle of repeat offenses that occur. These efforts will take two forms. First, by showing compassion and properly referring those with drug and mental health problems to more appropriate forums, such as accountability courts. Not happening. Secondly, vigorously prosecute those that chose to wreak havoc continuously. This court is where Madam District Attorney plans to work with community leaders to bring awareness by bringing back Court Watch. Complex unit. This division prosecutes the vast majority of your serious offenses. These crimes include, but are not limited to, armed robbery, burglary, aggravated assault, kidnapping, drug trafficking, and aggravated battery. This division in 2021 will now be equipped with a combination of brilliant and experienced lifelong prosecutors and a mix of energetic and innovative new prosecutors who will create a team of excellence in prosecution. So I think they like to use words, but they don't exercise the meaning of the words. The Fulton County court system proudly has a veterans court, mental health court, and drug court. Madam District Attorney Fani Willis, Fani, is committed to identifying those charged persons appropriate for such courts at case intake and immediately referring them to these courts. These courts serve many people within our community who only hope of ever becoming productive members of society. Furthermore, Madam District Attorney is committed to working with the criminal justice partners and expanding the initiative of accountability courts to spearhead an initiative for the first domestic violence court in the metro area. So I hope y'all know that they don't have any of those things operating. But those are the promises that she made when she took office. And people it sounds really good for real. So, you know, you you think, boy, we got a chance now. This is a new, you know, young person, and she's going to come in here. She's a woman. She's a mother. She's going to change things, huh? Not. That didn't happen. And it is really sad, Maria. Oh, okay, Alicia. You said you could hear me, not that you could imagine it. Okay, I got you. Oh, girl, that was deep. Okay, I'm with you. You know me. Okay, so that's what she promised the people. Now, let's look at my definitions that I got for you guys, because y'all know I'm a teacher at heart, which I can't teach nothing, but I'm a teacher at heart. On YouTube, I'm a teacher. Cornell Law School. That's where I get all of my stuff. It's a very good source if you're looking for any kind of law definitions or whatever. If you're not going to the Black's Law Dictionary, then this is a very good resource online. And I contribute to them monthly because they take donations, and because I use them so much, I truly believe a workman is worthy of his hire, and they put this out here, and I really rely on them for a lot of my research. I don't give much, but I give what I can on a monthly basis. Okay, so this is Legal Information Institute. So let's look at the first thing that happens. It's an arrest. It's the first thing that will happen to you. An arrest is the use of legal authority to deprive a person of their freedom of movement. An arrest is generally made with an arrest warrant. An arrest may be made without a warrant if probable cause and exigent circumstances are presented at the time of the arrest. Probable cause is a reasonable belief of the police officer in the guilt of the suspect, based on the facts and information prior to the arrest. For instance, a warrantless arrest may be legitimate in situations where the police officer has a reasonable belief that the suspect has either committed a crime or is about to commit a crime. The police officer might also arrest the suspect to prevent the suspect's escape or to preserve evidence. However, a warrantless arrest may be invalidated if the police officer failed to demonstrate exigent circumstances and probable cause. The right to make warrantless arrests are commonly defined and limited by statutes, subject to the due process. And wherever y'all see the blue, because I like to just make a copy and put it on a Word document. But if you're looking at it online, you will hit that and it'll take you to that definition and explanation. So that's what that is. Okay, the right to make a warrantless arrest are commonly defined and limited by statute, subject to the due process guarantee of the U.S. Constitution. The suspect arrested without a warrant is entitled to a prompt judicial determination, generally made in 48 hours. They have some people that have been waiting. 2 people for sure was up to 10 years, and they were never indicted, which we'll find out about that a little later. An arrest may trigger certain procedural requirements. For instance, the person under arrest must be given a Miranda warning. And then it gives you the law that tells you about Miranda. And if you're not familiar with Miranda, I thought I had it already prompted, but I be doing too much, and so I probably took it down when I was trying to put everything in one place. But you've heard them say you have the right to remain silent. That's Miranda. And that's one of the first things they tell you, and you should really exercise that right. Oftentimes, if you exercise the right to remain silent, they may try to threaten you or they may even take you to jail. But you don't care. You just remain silent. And I don't give legal advice, That's what the thing says, and that's what you can do. And if it was me, that's what I would do. But I can't tell nobody what to do because I don't want nobody talking about they went to jail because Toothless said. No, 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 no. I don't practice law. I'm not an attorney. I'm not a lawyer. I don't give legal advice. But if it were me, I can tell y'all what I would do. That's what I would do. Probable cause. I hit that button and that's what it said. Probable cause is a requirement found in the Fourth Amendment that must usually be met before police make an arrest, conduct a search, or receive a warrant. Courts usually find probable cause when there is a reasonable basis for believing that a crime may have been committed for an arrest, or when evidence of the crime is present in the place to be searched for a search. Under exigent circumstances, probable cause can also justify a warrantless search or seizure. Persons arrested without a warrant are required to be brought before a competent authority shortly after the arrest for a prompt judicial determination of probable cause. Indictment. And this is what we're talking about, that most of the people in the Fulton County Jail has not been indicted. Listen to the definition. An indictment formally charges a person with a crime. During an indictment proceeding, a grand jury determines if there is adequate basis for bringing criminal charges against the suspect criminal actor. An indictment is one of two options. A prosecutor has to formally charge a person with a criminal offense. Number one, indictment issued by a grand jury. Number two, criminal complaint filed directly to the court. In this case, the prosecutor does not need to get an indictment from a grand jury. The indictment enables the prosecution of a suspect for the offense charged. An indictment is a constitutional guarantee that nobody can face a criminal trial without being previously notified of the alleged criminal offenses and proceeding. Each state statute determines its indictment proceeding. Generally, the prosecutor will present evidence to a grand jury during an indictment proceeding. After the prosecutor has presented the evidence, the grand jury must decide whether there is an adequate basis for being criminal charges against a suspect and therefore issue an indictment against them. The criminal charges, evidence, witnesses, and deliberations are sealed and are not available to the public. Content. Each state also establishes the content of an indictment. However, Rule 7 of the Federal Rule of Criminal Procedure provides a list of minimum information that an indictment must contain and that follows for most states. 1. Plain, concise, and definite written statement of the essential facts constituting the offense charged. 2. Suspect's identity. Unless the suspect identity is unknown, Rule 7 C1 18 United States Code, for which the identity of the defendant is unknown, it shall be sufficient for the indictment to describe the defendant as an individual whose name is unknown, but who has a particular DNA profile, as that term is defined in Section 3282. And citation of the statute or regulation that was allegedly violated. And lastly, the signature from a government attorney. See also indictment of presidents. And I started to give y'all that because normally you wouldn't indict sitting president, but if you want to go and look that up, you would just hit that and it'll take you there, and it'll tell you even about a president and the condition that this president is in and the situation that's going on now. Rule 26.3, delayed indictments. And this is from Georgia. Georgia R Super CT 26.3. And that's a rule. The district attorney shall notify the chief judge in writing of the name of any unindicted accused who has been in custody under criminal felony charges for 45 days within 2 business days after said 45-day period has run. The chief judge may take any action deemed necessary or appropriate under the circumstances. So as we can see, that's not happening in Fulton County. They're not letting the chief judge know, and right now the chief judge want to be seen just as much as the DA because he's presiding over a young thug case, and I believe these people are really trying to either become Congress people, they're trying to become lobbyists, or they want their own TV show. I don't know if that's true or not. That's just one woman's belief, but these people do not care anything about the rights of the people that they keep hollering that they put them in office and they're going to serve them. They're not serving the people. The majority of the people, I had that written down too, and I think I knocked it off. The majority of the people in the Fulton County Jail, 87%, are Asiatic. Those are the people that are called black. 87%. Arraignment. An arraignment is the first step in a criminal proceeding where the defendant is brought in front of the court to hear the charges against them and enter a plea. And then they give you case law that you can look up to see how that works. Everything you hear in a law dictionary pretty much is going to give you case law. So that's how attorneys really write up their papers. I used to wonder, how did they know what cases to go find? And how did they find them? And if you go to a law dictionary, you will see with almost every single word that's defined, it may be a word or two, may not have a case, but almost every single word that's defined, you will find case law to support that word. So that's why you are very particular in how you word things, because you have something that's called precedent to back it up. Now, Sixth Amendment. Remember, I just told y'all about that the other night. We're going to be talking about that with the plea bargain system because that's a very important thing. A lot of our rights are being taken from us and we don't even realize it. And especially if we're not in the criminal injustice system, we certainly wouldn't know, but we may have a loved one, or we may have a friend that may have a child or a spouse or a sibling. You never know who you might meet that may have somebody in a dire situation. And if you learn a little something, you can't tell them what to do, but you can certainly tell them what you learned and how they can go and find it for themselves, and then they can make their own mind or contact whoever they need to contact. So, this is the Sixth Amendment. The Sixth Amendment guarantees the rights of criminal defendants, including the right to a public trial without unnecessary delay, the right to a lawyer, the right to an impartial jury, and the right to know who your accusers are. You've heard people say that you have a right to know who your accusers are. That's what that is, the Sixth Amendment. So if anybody accuse you of something, they can't just tell you, no, so-and-so said. No, you have a right to confront your accuser. You have a right to see them right in their face. You have a right to see them. Okay. All right. Then you have a right to know who your accusers are and the nature of the charges. And the nature of the charges is one where they get you most of the time. And I learned this from a guy who's very astute and in law here on YouTube. And he, take you to the dictionary. And he used a gestia a lot. I think you should put gestia and this Cornell in your favorites, just for legal definitions. And the nature is the jurisdiction. And I've asked y'all to look up the word jurisdiction in the Black's Law Dictionary. And like I said, I have that dictionary. If anybody wants a PDF file, all you have to do is get that email that's scrolling down there and email me. But that dictionary will give you case law, and it gives you definitions that are ancient and modern. So they're closer to the etymology of a word, the origin of a word that's been long used. And it's very important to know words. I know that may sound stupid, and why you keep saying that, because words are very important. And each word really has a meaning for that word. Although it could be synonymous to another word, you need to know what that word in which you speak, you need to know what that one means. Because said in the wrong circumstance, the wrong situation, it could cause you a lot of problems. And especially talking in the legal realm as opposed to everyday vernacular. Because that's why they have legal dictionaries, because they take on a different definition. So it's very important. But you also have a right to know the nature of the charges, the jurisdiction, and the evidence against you. It has been most visibly tested in a series of cases involving terrorism, but much more often figures in cases that involve, for example, jury selection or the protection of witnesses, including victims of sex crimes, or well as witnesses in need of protection from retaliation. And then let's go with the rest of the Sixth Amendment. In all criminal prosecutions, the accused shall enjoy the right to a speedy and public trial. That's not happening for those people in Georgia. People in Georgia, as I think it was Tasha said it, should be infuriated. I mean, really, if you have a loved one that's incarcerated in Georgia, you should be emailing, writing letters, making phone calls. And again, I am not an attorney. I don't tell people what to do, but that's what I would be doing if it were me. I'm just telling you that's what I would be doing if it were me. And they've never been indicted, and they've been in jail for 2 years waiting to be indicted. So they don't even have charges, but they just taken off the streets. Some people have lost everything. It's sad, y'all. It's really sad. And I'm sure that somebody could get on YouTube and say, you need to be looking at your own city. And I'm sure I could be, but I can tell you, I don't really look at the news or anything, but I know quite a few of the people that are in office, and I've never heard of this. Now, I've heard of some overcrowding and some badness. I done heard the jail done been bad as well. And I love our sheriff. But this kind of stuff here, this is just utterly ridiculous. I mean, utterly, y'all. It's breaking. It's heartbreaking, really. It is. And I'm not talking about for the people who just, no good and stuff, but everybody that's down there are not no good. And anybody that's down there because they haven't been in a trial before their peers are presumed innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. So all of these people are presumed innocent. And if this is not modern day slavery, then I don't know what you call it. By an impartial jury of the state and district wherein the crime shall have been committed, which district shall have been previously ascertained by law, and to be informed of the nature and cause of the accusation to be confronted with the witness against him. And the nature, you want to know that jurisdiction, because we have admiralty and maritime jurisdictions, and we also have the law of the land, which most states don't honor because that's a federal thing. And again, I'm not an attorney, You just, what I've read, and maybe my understanding could not be correct. So I stand to be corrected, and you read it and see what you get out of it. You may get something different and you can share it with me. Okay? And to be confronted with the witness against him, to have compulsory process for obtaining witnesses in his favor, and to have the assistance of counsel for his defense. So you can have the assistance of an attorney, or you can actually represent yourself. It's called pro se. The Eighth Amendment, we've heard this a lot because that deals with what we call excessive fines and bail. Most often mentioned in the context of the death penalty, the Eighth Amendment prohibits cruel and unusual punishment. But what those people are suffering in that jail is cruel and unusual punishment. They at one time had 1,000 people sleeping on the floor of the jail because they are so overcrowded. But also mentioned excessive fines and bail. The excessive fines clause suffices, among other places, in cases of civil and criminal forfeiture. For example, when property is seized during a drug raid. Bail. We always hear about people talking about making bond, making bail. Bail is the money a defendant pays as a guarantee that they will show up in court at a later date. A failure to return triggers the bond obligation and allows the court to keep any money given as security. According to the American Bar Association, the judge or magistrate decides the amount of bail by weighing many factors, including the risk of the defendant fleeing, the type of crime alleged, the dangerousness of defendants, and the safety of the community. Sometimes bail is conditioned on certain behavior of the defendant. For example, that they have no contact with the alleged victim. And then it shows you the dates that this stuff was updated, which was June 2022. The 14th Amendment, and we've all talked about the 14th Amendment because what we know most about the 14th Amendment is due process. And everybody wants due process. You want to be treated fairly, impartially, lawfully, and legally right. There is a difference in the word lawful and legal, and you should know the difference in those words. Overview. The 14th Amendment contains a number of important concepts, most famously state action, privileges and immunities, citizenship, due process, and equal protection, all of which are contained in Section 1. However, the 14th Amendment contains 4 other sections. Section 2 deals with the apportionment of representatives to Congress. Section 3 forbids anyone who participates in insurrection or rebellion against the United States for holding federal office. Section 4 addresses federal debt and repudiates debts accrued by the Confederacy. Section 5 expressly authorizes Congress to enforce the 14th Amendment by appropriate legislation. The states ratified the 14th Amendment in 1868 in the immediate aftermath of the American Civil War, along with the other Reconstruction Amendments, which are the 13th and the 15th Amendment. And Noble Drew Ali said, if we study ourselves and we learn who we are, we don't need the 14th, 13th, or 15th Amendment to free us, because you realize you're already free. And you should go and read those amendments, by the way, if you have not read them. I suggest everybody learn the Constitution with its 7 articles and the first 10 amendments or the Bill of Rights, and then read all amendments thereafter. Due process. Introduction. The Constitution states only one command twice. The Fifth Amendment says to the federal government that no one shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. The 14th Amendment, ratified in 1868, uses the same 11 words called the Due Process Clause to describe a legal obligation of all states. And in our states, the Due Process Clause in our Texas Republic Constitution is Article 1, Section 19. And it says due course of law. These words have as their central promise an assurance that all levels of American government must operate within the law, legality, and provide fair procedures. Most of the article concerns that promise. We should briefly note, however, three other uses that these words have had in American constitutional law. And then I went on to define equal protection. Equal protection overview. Equal protection refers to the idea that a governmental body may not deny people equal protection of its governing laws. The governing body state must treat an individual in the same manner as others in similar conditions and circumstances. And I would suggest that you look up the word individual, persons, look those words up in the law dictionary so that you will know what they mean. Permissible discrimination. It is important to acknowledge that a government is allowed to discriminate against individuals as long as the discrimination satisfies the equal protection analysis outlined below and described in full detail in this Santa Clara Law Review article. So you all can go and read that article if you're interested in how they can do that. The Fifth Amendment's Due Process Clause requires the United States government to practice equal protection. The 14th Amendment's Equal Protection Clause requires states to practice equal protection. Equal protection forces a state to govern impartially, not draw distinctions between individuals solely on differences that are irrelevant to a legitimate governmental objective. Thus, the Equal Protection Clause is crucial to the protection of civil rights. So, those are words that I wanted you guys to have the definitions to, just so you would know, and you may already know. But again, I just believe in leaving nothing to happenstance. Because you never know when you may find yourself in a situation and you will have to defend yourself against somebody or someone, and you want to do it with a pen and a paper. Well, hello there, Regina M. It's good to see you tonight. So those are the words. So now we're going to look at Gitmo, if by chance it will play. And like I said, I'm going to try to figure out some kind of way how to get me the Ethernet, because they said that Ethernet is when your stuff is grounded and you have a cord that goes to your router or rotor or whatever they call it. I think it's a router. I don't know. But when you have it plugged in, it's kind of like a landline type, and you don't have to worry about your Wi-Fi going weak or whatever. That's what StreamYard said that it could be. They didn't say that's what it was, but that's a possibility. So we're going to look at Gitmo, and it's a gentleman. We've seen him interview before, but I want to show y'all this picture here. I was looking for this picture to make it my thumbnail, and I still may do it. But I want y'all to see this picture, because these are just some of the people. While this lady is talking about she's upholding justice and going after these people, talking about these RICO cases where they're really just taking these people money, I want y'all to see this picture. These are the people that have been locked up for years without ever being indicted. Look at those people. Don't you know it ought to just make whoever is related to them, it ought to just make them cry to know that this is really what's going on with their loved ones and it's nothing is being done about it. These are people. And the wall goes on and on because it's hundreds of people. So let's go with the story. And y'all may have felt like y'all seen this before because I may have shown some of it. But I want y'all to see this because this is awesome. It's really sad.
Another shock out of the Fulton County Jail, an inmate stabbed to death.
LaShawn Thompson was found face down in the toilet in his cell, and he was covered in insects.
The 8th victim, Sam Lawrence, who wrote a letter asking for help just 4 days before his death.
His last words was, "Get help, please."
And now the Justice Department is launching an investigation.
It will cost roughly $40 million per year to move roughly 1,000 inmates out of the region and out of the state.
I got a detainee that wants to talk to you all.
I had knives put to my throat, and I had to call my mom telling them, please wire somebody some money or I'm gonna be killed.
Those inmates are not props. They are people. Let's stop playing politics while folks are dying.
Take a look. Here are the faces of the 10 people who died in the county's custody.
Attorneys comparing the jail to Gitmo, the infamous Guantanamo Bay detention camp in Cuba.
You are holding people for long periods of time without charging them with a crime.
No justice, no peace. No justice, no peace.
Until we address those systemic harms that have led to the death of so many in custody, we will continue to see these problems.
Hi, I'm Andy Perotti. Tonight, we investigate the crisis at Fulton County's jail, why overcrowding exists, how it's creating deteriorating conditions, and possible solutions. These are the 10 people who have died in the jail so far this year. None of them convicted of the crime they're accused, all of them dead before their court date. For the first time, Fulton County's top elected leaders sit down with Atlanta News First for exclusive interviews to answer tough questions. They are the sheriff, the district attorney, the county chairman, and the chief judge. But before we hear from them, listen to the people the jail impacts the most, some comparing to America's notorious Guantanamo Bay prison they're calling Georgia's Gitmo.
It really scarred me for life.
D'Anthony Tolbert has never served in the military, but says what he witnessed while detained inside the Fulton County Jail felt like war.
I saw people die. I saw people get stabbed.
Atlanta police arrested D'Anthony and his former roommate for murder in 2019. This past July, his attorney argued the district attorney had no proof he was involved.
There's no physical evidence that Mr. Tolbert assaulted anybody, fired a gun at anybody, drove the vehicle that night.
Frustrated, the 25-year-old spoke out in court.
City Chairman Vernon, I don't need no disrespect, but this is my life, so I only have one chance.
After waiting 4.5 years behind bars to prove his innocence, the jury found him not guilty. How did this impact your mental health?
I ain't even gonna lie to you, it tore me up. I'm scared right now because I don't have nobody. I don't have a support team. When I got out, it's like they don't even have programs to help people in my situation. I really did lose everything. And even my kids, I can't even have my family no more.
He lost his home, lost his job, and he almost lost his life.
Stab right here.
each marking on his back and arms stab wounds from knives and shanks. Right there,
Right there.
there. They just keep going. And this all happened at the jail?
Yeah.
I mean, are you surprised that you're alive?
Yeah. I thank God for it every day.
An Atlanta News First investigation uncovered DeAnthony is one of hundreds of people inside the county jail waiting extraordinary lengths of time for their day in court. Overcrowding the jail caused by an unprecedented backlog of criminal cases. County records show as of September, at least 690 people detained more than a year in jail, 142 waiting 3 years, and at least 19 people waiting more than 5. That includes 61-year-old Darrell Lowe, who has waited 13 years behind bars for his trial date. None of them convicted of a crime, all of them in the sheriff's custody. Fulton County Sheriff Pat Labatt. Are you frustrated when you hear these numbers?
Well, I'm not frustrated. Let me tell you why I'm not frustrated. I knew when I took office, I knew when I ran for office that the system was broken. I just didn't know how broken.
The court backlog impacts more than people accused of crimes. Victims and their families suffer too.
We're back on the record with State versus Jerez Sanders.
This past August, Latarcia Gaither takes a seat inside a Fulton County courtroom, waiting for a verdict she worried would never happen. Facing Jerez Sanders, accused of killing her longtime boyfriend Timothy Jackson and 2 others at this home in 2013.
I needed justice to move on. I need this to move on.
Latarcia is the one who found Timothy dead inside.
You go down the hallway, there's a bedroom to your left, and the 2 bedrooms.
I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy, finding somebody that you love and care about with their head blown off like that. That took a lot from me. It destroyed me.
A jury found Jerez guilty of murder, but he sat in Fulton County's jail for nearly 10 years until his trial.
I felt like my life was on hold. Like I couldn't move on because I needed closure from this.
Was your jail ever intended to house someone 10 years waiting for trial?
Well, the direct answer is no. We were never intended as a penitentiary or as a state prison. It is a pretrial facility.
The sheriff says when the jail was built in 1989, it was almost immediately over capacity. Sections of it are now falling apart. Labatt is calling for a new, bigger detention center focused on mental health services. Estimated cost to taxpayers, more than $1 billion. But if the backlog is not addressed, is not fixed, what will new jail do? Would it even matter?
Well, certainly it matters, and we've advocated for a replacement jail. This jail is, when you look at your home, you look at a single family home that was built to house a single family, and then the day it was open, you have multiple families in that home. The pipes weren't rated for that. The lighting wasn't rated for that. The walls weren't rated for that. And that's what has occurred here.
Sheriff Labatt says his office is caught between the district attorney's office and judges, waiting for them to move cases along, while his jail and the people inside suffer the consequences.
I think there's enough blame to go around. I can tell you who's not to blame. Not to blame is the sheriff's office.
Enter Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis, who took office in January 2021.
What they would like to do is to paint a scapegoat for inaction that they've taken. It is unconscionable the way that our jail is. They've known our jail is in that state. People need to be in safe conditions.
But does the DA's office contribute to the problem? According to records from the county clerk's office this past summer, there were 1,232 people inside the jail who have yet to be indicted, about 60 of them waiting more than a year. People not formally charged with the crime, waiting for District Attorney Fani Willis's office to take the case to a grand jury to determine charges, while they sit behind bars.
People need to be timely indicted, timely tried, and given the opportunity to force the state to prove its case.
Atlanta criminal defense attorney Andrew Fleischman criticized the DA on Twitter earlier this year, writing, "Willis has been keeping people in jail without trial or even indictment for years. Wright Street has become our very own Gitmo." Fleischman comparing the county jail to the Guantanamo Bay detention camp in Cuba, which has held suspected 9/11 terrorists without trial for decades.
You are holding people for long periods of time without charging them with a crime or giving them due process. And that's exactly what happened at Gitmo.
That in particular should be a high-level point of frustration.
This past September, Fulton County Commissioner Bob Ellis raised the issue during a meeting, upset more progress had not been made after allocating $75 million in federal pandemic aid to address it.
I think collectively, everybody's pissed at the quality, the level of results.
What's your reaction to that?
That Commissioner Ellis is not a supporter of criminal justice, is ignorant, doesn't know what he's talking about most days, is just not really trying to make himself informed of the issues or the progress. Commissioners have tried to paint this picture that somehow incarceration and indictment tie.
I cannot stand that woman's voice when she go to that condescending tone. I could just pimp slap her and put some hair on her edges and glue off that weave.
Hand in hand, and they don't.
People arrested for felonies are entitled to be released on bond after 90 days, but that's not a guaranteed get-out-of-jail-free card if they are not indicted by that time. It means a Superior Court judge likely determined they were a flight or security risk at their initial bond appearance, not eligible for a bond due to an unrelated pending charge, or they couldn't afford the post bail to be released.
The other thing is, in the old administration, they would take whatever the police faxed over and they would simply indict. There was no investigation did. We changed completely the way we did business, meaning that prior to someone being indicted, we had to actually have the evidence. That sounds novice to people, but they were not doing that.
So what about people waiting years in the jail for their trial dates? Specifically, the 19 who have waited longer than 5 years. Why is it taking so long to get to trial?
So your information also is not complete, but you could have easily pulled it. All, not some, 100% of them have competency issues. They are certainly in custody, but they are in custody at Georgia Regional.
Georgia Regional is the state mental health hospital the county uses to treat inmates with mental illness. District Attorney Willis says her office can't prosecute someone until a doctor determines they are competent to stand trial. Until then, some go back and forth from the jail to Georgia Regional for treatment. Atlanta News first uncovered 7 of the 19 waiting 5 years behind bars have never been to the hospital, all stuck in legal limbo.
When you have people that are so severely mentally ill, extremely violent, not someone you want on the street, not someone your neighbor wants on the street.
While Willis says her office has made strides reducing the court backlog, it continues to grow. So far this year, pending criminal cases spiked to 23,000, a 28% increase since December. The DA says she needs more staff to tackle it.
I'm also not going to apologize for saying this office needs adequate resources. We need more investigators and more lawyers and legal support staff that can support them.
Coming up, Fulton County's chief judge responds to criticism he's not doing enough to address the problem. Plus, why the head of the county's commission blames the public for the jail's failures.
The voters are at fault in all of this from my perspective. It's your fault. The voters are at fault in all of this from my perspective. It's your fault.
That's Fulton County Chairman Rob Pitts blaming the public for problems at Fulton County's jail. But Pitts, who heads the commission responsible for funding the detention center, doesn't stop there. He says elected judges share responsibility too.
I'm hoping that we will have this same lively debate when we get to the money part of this meeting today.
The head of Fulton County's commission, Chairman Rob Pitts, says he's tired of allocating millions of tax dollars to address problems at the jail without getting better results. Despite deteriorating conditions while over capacity for decades.
Thursday afternoon, a triple stabbing left one inmate dead and 2 others injured.
To date, we have had 10 deaths in the Fulton County Jail.
The Department of Justice is investigating the jail's living conditions.
A brand new jail is not going to solve the problem if you don't have good management in that jail.
The chairman wants to renovate the current jail instead, saying the detention facility's real problem is rooted in the county's historic court backlog, forcing inmates to wait for trial too long. As of September, hundreds of people were waiting more than a year in jail, dozens of others more than 3. Innocent until proven guilty, languishing behind bars while they wait for their day in court.
Reason for the jail being overcrowded, if we're honest, is that those who are responsible for processing those in jail through the system are not doing their job.
The chairman puts most of the blame on 2 groups of people. First, Fulton County Superior Court judges who are elected.
Some work, some do not. Some come to work at 10 o'clock in the morning, go to lunch at 12, and play golf. We monitor this. The judges who are working come to my office and tell me which ones are working, which ones are not working.
So which judges are we talking about?
Well, I can give you a list of them.
Each month, the county publishes this chart on its website.
Now, y'all look down there at Glanville, who is the Chief Justice, and he's the one who's presiding over Young Thug case, and look at his time. Look at his numbers. McAfee does work 89% of the time. But look at these judges. You are so right. I think that was Charlene. It is just unconscionable. It's unbelievable. And the people of Atlanta ought to be outraged.
Website identifying how many inmates in the jail are assigned to each judge. As of late August, at least 9 of the judges were juggling more than 100 defendants in the jail.
I propose let's take an ad in the AJC on a weekly basis, a full-page ad, and list what judges are working and which ones are not.
The second set of people Chairman Pitts blames for the jail's crisis, the public.
The voters are at fault in all of this from my perspective for electing and re-electing the same people. If you get these same results, it's your fault.
That might be a hard pill to swallow for viewers and the public thinking, well, we expect you to do better. Don't blame us for simply trusting you to do the job.
Not the Board of Commissioners. We don't run the jail. We don't indict people. We don't charge people. None of that. We're trying to solve a problem by providing the resources, which we have been very generous with.
Up next, a prediction about the jail's future from the county's top judge and his response to the chairman's criticism.
This particular issue of overcrowding in the jail is a collaborative effort.
Hundreds of people inside Fulton County's jail have waited years for their day in court, overcrowding the facility, creating dangerous conditions. The county's chairman blames elected judges for not doing enough to address the problem. We sat down with the court's chief judge to get answers.
Motion on the floor is to rescind the contract.
Ask the head of Fulton County's commission who's to blame for overcrowding at the jail. Chairman Rob Pitts points to Superior Court judges and the voters who keep them in office.
Some work, some do not. Some come to work at 10 o'clock in the morning, go to lunch at 12, and play golf. We monitor this. The voters are at fault in all of this from my perspective. It's your fault.
Any other witnesses, Ms. Bell?
Fulton County Chief Superior Court Judge, Earl Glanville.
What's your response to what he said?
Well, I would disagree because this particular issue of overcrowding in the jail is a collaborative effort.
Voters first elected Glanville to the bench in 2005. He's been the chief for about a year. The judge says he and his colleagues on the bench are working hard to move cases along, but they are at the mercy of prosecutors and defense attorneys' ability to get their cases ready. Case in point, there are not enough court-appointed attorneys. These are the lawyers who represent the majority of people in jail who cannot afford to pay for one themselves.
It's a problem. I understand it's a problem.
This man told a judge in July he sat in the county jail for nearly a year without an attorney.
How long have you been in custody?
11 months.
And have you seen
About to be 12 months on the 13th
of
August.
August, okay. And has anyone come to see you? Any lawyer?
No one.
Okay.
The whole public defender system is just very important because if you don't have public defenders, criminal accused, it affects their ability to have adequate representation.
Judge Glanville says cases are also held up by the overburdened crime lab at the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, which can take months for it to test drugs and firearm ballistics needed before the DA will pursue charges or drop the case.
If I'm a defendant and that science will exonerate me, or at least give me a better understanding of where I stand with that case, there's nothing I can do until I get that data point.
This past December, Judge Glanville signed this order suspending defendants' ability to request speedy trials, citing the pandemic and an overwhelming backlog for the reason. It ended in July, but the result, potentially thousands of people unable to move their cases forward for months.
Do you think that suspension impacted the backlog during that time?
I would say so because we were not able to try as many cases during the pandemic given the health concerns. So yeah, it had an effect.
To address the backlog, the judge says his colleagues created a temporary program to fund more court-appointed attorneys. They're also holding court inside the jail on Saturdays, but they need the commission to fund more judge positions.
A year from now, what do you think the numbers will be, or what do you think the conversation will be?
The conversation will be that these numbers will continue to decrease. We're constitutionally mandated to give you time and opportunity to have your case heard, either before a judge or jury, and that's what we're going to continue to do.
County commissioners have yet to decide whether they will approve funding for a new jail that could exceed more than $1 billion. We'll keep you posted. In the meantime, you can watch the full interviews with the sheriff, the DA, the county chairman, and the chief judge in this story on AtlantaNewsFirst.com. Thanks for watching.
Now, y'all know that that's just sad, that people have to live in those kind of conditions. And this is just the jail. So you can imagine what their prisons are like. They've got to be worse. And on this link that I put in there, and I'll try to drop it in there again. On that link that I put in there, you can catch every last one of those interviews. You can catch every last one of those interviews there. And let me try to give y'all that. Put that link in there one more time. It's a sin and a shame. So I thought that maybe we need to look at, this woman who's keep telling these people in Atlanta that, and telling the Congress and everybody she's a constitutional officer, but she's not doing a constitutional job. Oh, thank you so much, Angela. I appreciate that. Let me tell you thank you properly. Give me one moment. I'm trying to get this link together. I didn't save it over here where I have all my links saved. Maria taught me that. How to save my links. So y'all just give me 1 minute and I'm almost through. I don't want to put that little lion face up there, even though they all liars. I don't want to put it up there. Okay, let me say thank you. Like only Toothless can. Now tomorrow is the eclipse, and thank you for telling us about it, Regina. I wonder are the courts and stuff going to be closed tomorrow, or they're going to be handling business? Because, like he pointed out, how those people are coming to work, but they're not really working any cases, and they have all these people locked away. Can you imagine? And there's really nothing you can do. That's why you try to teach your children that, there are some things you can get yourself into. Mama just can't get you out. Daddy can't either. So you have to be very careful in what you do and how you do it and who you do it with. Because anything can happen. And I wanted to cover that more so them, what they're doing, what they're not doing. Because we can see, like I said, if y'all would look at Melanie, I didn't get her link, but she had, last night I looked at her show, and she had a 28-page document where they're breaking down all of the wrongs of that election. And y'all, it is so sad, it's not even funny. And they tried to tell the people, but they didn't do anything about it. These things are supposed to be bipartisan, but of course everything is split down party lines, and it's not about the people. I think her name is Melanie King. She had a show last night that was awesome. She grew up in D.C., and all of her people work for the government. So she said she grew up at the Pentagon playing on the ramps while her mom was working, and her mom was at work. She said the day that 9/11 happened, her mom was at work, and they all were worried about her mom because they couldn't call into her, but they had her on a helicopter, and she said one of the generals allowed her to use the phone to call the family to let them know that they were in the air and they were all right. But she's a beautiful young lady, and she does very good work. She said she started out doing relationships, but like me, this Fani woman just fell in your lap, and I just think that it needs to be reported on all kind of ways. So I thought I would put my spin on it, and I'm saddened that she's the way she is, but I'm grateful that she has given me the content to bring to the people and to look at it from a different perspective. I certainly appreciate you so much for the super chat. Yeah, it's fine. You can. You really can. Because if anybody want to go look at it, I want them to be able to go, check it out. Yeah, I don't mind if people go and check out people, because it's a few people doing a good job covering these stories. It really is a few people that's doing a real good job, and I'm, enjoying it. And I just try to go around and see if I find somebody that I can listen to and that's making sense and not just making jokes. And it really, really, really is interesting. But y'all need to hear that, because she reads the document, the whole document. And when you hear the stuff that those people did not do, there's no way that these charges could ever stick. So it lets you know that this is just an agenda. And it's to scare the people, but the people need to be looking, especially in Fulton County, at what's happening in their county. I still would like to know what happened to those 20 cars that she purchased, in addition to the cars she bought before she got the 20. They gave her $1.2 million, and then they gave her $660,000. And then she paid Nathan Wade over $700,000, and then she paid his partners $210 an hour for at least, I'm going to say, 11 months. But I believe it was after 11 months. She lied on the witness stand and said she only had them for about 2 months. But that's not true, because they didn't break up their partnership until 2023, when supposedly she broke up her relationship with him. And none of us believe that. I don't know if any of you all saw the video I did the other day. I did a video on the family. But it's just really sad. And we always talking about how the European is treating us. And it's like we turn a blind eye to the people that look like us, that's doing the very exact thing that we're accusing everybody else of doing it. Because it's a system, everybody does it. And we cannot allow anybody to get away with treating us like this. We work too hard. And every day is a brand new mercy, because you don't know what's going to happen in the course of a day. I heard some sad news. My nephew, one of his friends' daughter, last night lost her life. And I don't know what it was all about or what happened. But she was a young lady. Under 30, I believe. Or right at 30. Somewhere in that area. So it's sad. Regina said there is absolutely no way the judge and other law officials do not know the lies that Fani Willis is telling and the truth behind the backlog of people waiting in jail for a fair trial. Yeah, that's really something. They did say that they do have a federal investigation, and they said this is not the first time that they've taken over their jails. They've had to do that before. And see what's so bad about it? Fani Willis worked in the DA office for about 16 years before she left and came back as the DA. So she has ambitions, and it's not to help the people, it's to help her climb the corporate ladder and the corporate governmental ladder, because she's trying to get to either Congress or she's trying to become a lobbyist. But she's not about the people, and if these people don't know that, and then when she used that old tone of voice, like she's really saying something and she's not saying anything, it's so nerve-wracking. I don't get it. But that's what I had for you guys tonight. I was going to play another one, but I think we're going to go ahead and end because the eclipse is tomorrow and some people really want to see it. But I could really go ahead and play the sheriff because we haven't seen him. I'm going to have to let y'all hear him and her when they was there asking for the money from the commissioners, and she's talking about my brother. But he was, they said he's no earthly good either. And he tried to come in like he's so humble. And this is another one that I couldn't put my closed caption on. I tried. We're going to listen to him and then we'll say goodnight.
Sheriff, thank you so much for agreeing to do this. I really appreciate your perspective. I think it's really crucial to this story. I want to throw out some numbers to you and get your reaction. According to the Fulton County Court Administration, as of July of this year, there were 1,200 individuals who were detained in your jail who are waiting for an indictment, not officially charged with a crime yet, and an additional 1,400 individuals who had been indicted but are still waiting for their trial date. What's your reaction to those numbers?
Well, those numbers have risen. So our data shows that we have nearly 1,600 people that are unindicted, specifically 1,573 individuals as of today that are unindicted. I certainly know the DA and her team have been working to make sure that people are held accountable for their actions. Ultimately, the system is broken. And so we're in a space where the remainder of people who are indicted still have to wait for a court date, a trial date to be set, whatever that looks like. So we're caught between the DA's office, the solicitor's office, as well as the judges, planning these next steps for people to go to court.
How do these numbers impact your jail and detainees?
Well, when you look, arrests are up over 1,000 from this time last year, 1,000 additional detainees, and so the numbers continue to rise. And so if you keep pumping into a system or into a facility like ours, and there is no relief valve, there is no bond for people to get out in many instances. One point last week we checked, there were over 1,400 people that had a no bond status, meaning they couldn't receive a bond even if, many have gone to court, but they just could not receive a bond. The misnomer here, though, is that at Fulton County we house a bunch of misdemeanors. We don't. Ultimately, everyone we have has been charged with a serious crime. Even our misdemeanors, in many instances, have domestic violence attached to them or some kind of violent charge attached to them. So the sheriff's office is caught in the middle of what court looks like, what the DAs and the solicitors are able to prosecute, and in many instances, people without representation and conflicting out. You know, for us, what does that look like? It looks like, in many cases, we have multiple defendants. Well, if the public defender's office is unable to defend because one person has been selected in a multi-defendant case, then they have to find independent attorneys. So everybody has the right to representation. It just clogs the system the way it's set up.
I want to talk to you about some detainees who have been waiting in your jail for years. One of them is Durez Sanders. He waited nearly 10 years for his trial date. He was ultimately convicted of murder, a triple murder. Was your jail ever intended to house someone 10 years waiting for trial?
Well, the direct answer is no. We were never intended as a penitentiary or as a state prison. It is a pretrial facility. Ultimately, part of our problem, part of the problem really around the nation is the jails have become the mental health facilities for their jurisdictions. We're the largest mental health facility in the state. And I say that in understanding that when a person goes to trial, they also have the right to be competent in order to not just defend themselves, but be able to make decisions and help make decisions about their case. And so when a judge resets a case for this competency hearing or whatever that looks like, when you have a strain on the system like we've had over really the course of a decade, if not more, we inherited this system. And it is one that allows people to languish in jail, waiting on the opportunity to get either the mental health help they need or be determined if they, or have their, really their competency level restored in many instances, or a judge determined a person's not competent.
When you hear about someone like Mr. Sanders who waited almost 10 years, is there ever a point where you're like, this guy's been in here 3 years, 5 years, 6 years, what's happening? Are you reaching out to the DA or judges saying, what's the deal with this guy?
So we started an inmate advocacy unit, and that unit really has gone through all 3,600 of our detainees, each case, to see what we can do in terms of improving the communications. But really what really weighs on me is, in many instances, yes, a person is innocent until proven guilty, but if we have 3,600 detainees, there's the potential to be 3,600 victims. And so my job is to protect and serve as well. And so we have to make sure that we create a balance for our community. Again, at one point we had over 547 people charged with murder. So everybody just can't go back out on the street. But we started an inmate advocacy unit to focus on any misdemeanors or any persons that have been here longer periods of time than had they been convicted and been out on the streets in 2 or 3 months, or served time and been on the street 2 or 3 months. Those kinds of things we've been able to work with the judges, work with the DA's office to try and at least get people consent bonds or back to their families.
Let me talk to you about another detainee that you may know about, D'Anthony Tolbert. He waited 4.5 years for his trial, and in July, a jury found him not guilty. When you hear that one of your detainees waited 4.5 years for his trial and was ultimately found not guilty, what goes through your mind?
Well, a number of things, right? Why did he end up waiting that long? Was the wait itself, did it have an impact on whether he was found, guilty or not guilty? Again, that's up to the jurors and that's up to the judges and those that defend him. So for us, it's a matter of making sure that they have access to that kind of defense. And I give credit to the system from the perspective that if he was innocent, they proved he was innocent, and it was our job really to let him go at that point.
When you look at the numbers and you take a step back, to you, is this a constitutional crisis?
Well, our jail's been in crisis for more than 2 decades, and the system itself, as I mentioned earlier, is broken. And so we have to look at models around the country that do it better, indict people faster. But I have to give some credit to the county and to the Board of Commissioners. They really have put us in a space where they've been able to hire additional judges, bring back senior judges. Ultimately, we need to look at the overall system to say, is Fulton County being served by the number of judges we have? And on a state level, do we need to add 10, 15 more judges to our overall system and what that looks like?
If you had to put a finger on it, who or what is to blame here?
I think there's enough blame to go around. I can tell you who's not to blame. Not to blame is the sheriff's office. But the system itself is one that perpetuates and continues to grow. Our police departments, our local police departments, do a really great job of solving crimes. And when you solve a crime, you make an arrest. And those arrests their job is to solve that crime. And look at APD, their clear-up rate is somewhere around 93, 94%, meaning if you commit a crime inside Atlanta, you're going to go to jail. Ultimately, you are then put into this cycle of really this perpetual cycle of going to court, not going to court, being assigned a judge that is probably overworked in many instances, and some that do more than others, right? It just depends on the judge you get assigned, the defense you have, what does that look like? The public defender's office will tell you they're understaffed and underpaid. So it's the system, but it does not, the system in and of itself is not perpetuated by the sheriff's office.
I was speaking to a criminal defense attorney who compares Fulton County's jail to Gitmo, and here's why he says that comparison. He says there are people in Guantanamo Bay, Gitmo, who have been waiting years for their trial. Some of them have never been charged. There are similar comparisons to some of your detainees. When you hear that comparison, what goes through your mind?
Well, it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate the county has been in this posture for years on end. Long before I was elected, long before Madam D, how to get it done correctly. And so for us to continue, create an inmate advocacy unit so that not just the detainee can advocate for themselves, but so we can advocate for those individuals. And it has yielded some very good results.
You've advocated for a new jail, but if the backlog is not addressed, is not fixed, what will a new jail do? Would it even matter?
Well, it certainly matters, and we've advocated for a replacement jail. This jail is, when you look at your home, you look at a single family home, for instance, that was built to house a single family, and then the day it was open, you have multiple families in that home. The pipes weren't rated for that. The lighting wasn't rated for that. The walls weren't rated for that. And that's what has occurred here. From the day we opened 30 years ago, we were overcrowded. And in the posture that we've had over the last several decades, no one has taken care of the facility. You look at the bands, and I love the Falcons, but Arthur Blank came in and built the team a new facility. That kind of posture, that kind of futuristic look down the road is where we need to be. Because where we are now with our facility is about warehousing individuals. What a new facility would look like will be about focusing on mental health, focusing on reentry, focusing on making sure people have what they need on the way in the door, as opposed to just warehousing people. We have to change the culture.
What would be your message to the chief judge, the DA, moving forward to help alleviate overcrowding here?
Well, the wonderful thing about Atlanta, wonderful thing about Fulton County specifically, is we all have great relationships. There was a time before I was elected, just 4 or 5 years ago, you couldn't put the police chief, the DA, and the sheriff all in the same room. Now it's the exact opposite. So we work well together. We probably talk 2 or 3 times a week just to figure out what we can do with individual cases and multiple cases. And so in many instances, consent bonds are being given on people that have, again, I mentioned earlier, a number of people that have been here more than a year or longer just waiting to go to court, working with the judges to make sure that those consent bonds are signed. So there's not a rock we won't overturn to help our community, but ultimately our goal is to hold people accountable as well.
Chairman Pitts earlier this week threw out some ideas to help alleviate the jail. One, by renegotiating the contract with the Atlanta City Jail to have them provide or make more beds available, even the federal prison system. What are your thoughts on those recommendations?
So those are not new ideas, right? I've been saying that since 1/1/21, since I took office. I helped negotiate both the deals with ACDC, albeit flawed in its approach. We have to create a pressure relief valve. We had an opportunity several months ago to take many detainees down to Irwin County. The board didn't have the appetite at the time. One thing that we were very intentional about is making sure the board, we communicate with the board. So if you recall, I took 1,500 shanks, really it was 1,200 shanks, homemade knives in 5 different wheelbarrows into the Board of Commissioners meeting. The building is falling apart. Detainees are using the building to weaponize and create really shanks and hurt other individuals. And part of our problem is because people languish here in jail for long periods of time, they get additional charges because they are assaulting other people. And so, again, an opportunity like this, and Chairman Pitts is absolutely correct, it's not a new idea, right? I reached out to the Bureau of Justice Assistance as well as the National Institute of Corrections in September of last year and said, we need help. We need help from a federal level. We need help from a local level, and for us to be able to create a pressure relief valve, get people out of the facility. Prime example, just between this week and last week alone, we visited 2 facilities, one in the state of Georgia, 4 hours south of here, and one in Mississippi as of yesterday. Really, we can take 1,500 people, anywhere from 800 to 1,500 people, put them in a more humane environment, and then slowly get the building here restored. Because one thing we know is building a new or replacement jail will take 3 to 5 years. We still have to take care of this building as best we can.
I think you were just mentioning the potential of bringing some of those detainees to Mississippi, a jail in Mississippi and South Georgia, is that right?
Correct.
And I think the Public Defender's Office is against that. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, first, I'll never make everybody happy. I'll never make everybody happy, but the one thing we understand is that we have to do something. The chairman and I agree. We are in a state of crisis. We've been there for over a decade. Ultimately, the Public Defender's Office, selfishly, the way I look at it, will either not drive to see the people they defend or use technology to see the people they defend, but ultimately they want to complain whether I move people or not move people. So to that extent, we'll let the legal experts figure that part out, but I'm going to move people out of this facility to create a safer environment.
What are we not talking about as it relates to how the criminal backlog system in the county is impacting your jail? What am I not talking about with you?
Well, I think you've pretty much covered it, right? The one thing that we have to stay focused on, though, is having an overcrowded facility as large as this. When we have nearly 500 people sleeping on the floor, we've done a great job of reducing that number. What does it look like by outsourcing to Cobb, to Oconee, to Forsyth, whatever it looks like. I wrote a letter to all 158 other sheriffs in the state and said, whether you have 1 bed, 10 beds, or 1,000 beds, we need help. And to be able to do that, the piece that we're missing is the constant drain of having an overcrowded facility causes mental health pressures on those that are really on the floors, those that are incarcerated, and our team. Our sheriff's office, our women and men of the sheriff's office do a wonderful job with what we have. And we have to give people a facility they're both proud to work in, but more importantly, a facility that is safe to work in.
I've covered jails for years, and I know one of the things that you don't have control over is the health of the inmate when they come into your facility. You don't have any control of that, and oftentimes their health, because of the demographic they come from, not having a lot of money, they don't have access to health care. I say all that because we have to at least identify or at least mention that there have been 10 people who have died in your jail this year. Knowing that you don't have any control over their health before they get here, 10 is still a lot, and I'm wondering if you can respond to that.
Well, it's unfortunate, and I feel for them, feel for their families. It's interesting, though, when you have somebody that has chronic heart conditions, all right? You're absolutely right. When they come in the facility, the expectation is that we are their hospital and their doctors as well. When you have somebody that has multiple seizures, right, ongoing seizures, it is unfortunate that we are not just the highest, we have the highest number of mental health patients, but we also have the highest number of chronic conditions that we aren't responsible for until we're responsible for them, if that makes sense. When a person comes in, we take over that health care and what that looks like, but in many instances, people have not taken care of themselves, and it continues to cause issues. Now, one of the things that we've done, again, we've been very, very fortunate to work with the Board of Commissioners and put together a actual armband system that is, the technology is really unbelievable. It will actually track a person's heart rate. So we know if it spikes, we know if it drops. And it's really predicated upon, right as I became sheriff, 2 or 3 weeks later, one of my hugest supporters, her son committed suicide. And so we needed to figure out how do we lean into technology and make sure that if a person's heart rate drops, we're immediately notified. So just on this past Monday, we went live with new technology. We're testing it on the 3rd floor. The Board of Commissioners has given us the monies to outfit the entire third floor. So that's mental health and medical in a space that will instantaneously notify, create an alarm for the medical unit, for our team, and if that alarm is not responded to 5 minutes later, to the next level of supervisors, 10 minutes later, to as high as me, 10, 15 minutes, after that. So it's responsible for going out, looking and sending out text messages, emails, when a person spikes. The other piece to it is we've had a high level of violence, to your point, and in that, if a person's heart rate goes up, we'll know that that's the reason or what that looks like. We can go check on them. But also, if they're individuals that are to be kept separate from each other, this armband technology will make sure that we keep individuals separate from each other, not in close proximity to each other. The alarms will go off, et cetera. So we have to leverage technology, both wearable technology and camera systems, to help us as we get ready to move forward and navigate into the future.
Anything else that you'd like to say when it comes to, we were talking earlier before we started rolling, there are a number of inmates. We talked about Durez Sanders, who waited almost 10 years. We talked about D'Anthony Tolbert, who waited 4.5 years, but there's an inmate at last check, Sandy Reed, waiting 7 years currently. Raylon Browning, 6 years. Another gentleman, Vernon Spear, 10 years. It seems like this isn't supposed to be this situation. Like, it seems like these people shouldn't be waiting this long. And I'm wondering, are you frustrated when you hear these numbers?
Well, I'm not frustrated. Let me tell you why I'm not frustrated. I knew when I took office, I knew when I ran for office, that the system was broken, but you just didn't know how broken, right? And while many people are standing by rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic, knowing it's gonna sink, we've said this and been very transparent since 1/1/21, since I took office. So our goal is to really lean in, focus, and see what we can do better to provide additional information, ask the right questions. In many instances, all of those questions and answers lie in the judges and the courts that have to hear those cases, lie in the DA who has to prosecute those cases, or whether it be the Solicitor General, whatever that looks like. And in many instances, it's relying on technology to make sure that they have the witnesses and the lawyers that they need to prosecute a case. But again, we, as the Sheriff's Office, are stuck right in the middle.
And do we know whether that person who has been waiting 13 years, I know that in some instances, sometimes they go to prison for an unrelated charge and then they come back or whatever. Is this straight 13 years?
I can check.
Okay.
But it says booking date 4/5 of 2010.
That is incredible, 13 years.
And what equally is incredible, and the story that needs to be really socialized, is the fact that out of 3,464 inmates today, only 187 of them are misdemeanors. And then when you drill down on some of those misdemeanors, the Solicitor General and his office find, in many cases, some of them are habitual violators, which will catapult them into another category. Many of them are violent by nature, whatever that looks like. And many of them have mental health issues that he and his team are working through to see how quickly they can get people help as well. So we're really laser focused on that, but that also means that over 3,200 people have felony charges or greater. And so we just have to be very, very cognizant of that. And those felony charges that are possession charges, for instance, and a person's been here 6 months or longer, those are the kind of the things we're highlighting, taking to the DA, and see if we can get consent bonds on.
13 years. 187 misdemeanor as of today?
Yes.
Okay.
That was on
Tuesday.
Sheriff, thanks for doing this.
No, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. I appreciate the story. I appreciate shedding light on this.
I don't think people, I think there is a lot of blame to go around, like you mentioned, but I don't think people understand. I think there's value in telling people how we got here.
I agree.
And why we're here, not just explaining, hey, here's this jail that's had multiple issues.
And it's valuable in telling people where we are going as well, right? And there's no one that wants to see anybody languish in jail, period. right? You want people to go to trial, be found innocent or guilty, and ultimately sentenced by a judge who can make those decisions if they're guilty, released if a judge and jury decides that there's not evidence to support the case, and then continue to churn through this backlog.
Is there, and you may have mentioned this, so I apologize if you already said it, but do you guys have a mechanism or some sort of like person tracking, like the guy at 13 years? You know, I imagine after 5 years, you guys are going, well, what's taking so long? Is there someone sort of like, I know that you don't have any control over their trial date, but is there anyone going, what's going on with this guy?
Well, keep in mind, we inherited this, so the person has been here
Before
13 years.
Before you even got here, yeah.
Right? So the person's been here 5 years or even 4 years, right? They were here before we got here, but what we did is create advocacy on it so that we can do a better job of tracking and asking those questions. Why has this person been here 13 years? And most of the time it is a legal representation problem or a legal competency problem. And so we have to make sure if there are things that we can do. For instance, that we've had a gentleman that's been here almost 3 or 4 years that's awaiting a bed in Georgia Regional. What does that look like? And then when they go to, in many of these cases, because of competency level, when they get a bed space in Georgia Regional, who services the entire state, not just us, when they get a bed, they sit potentially, and here's a unique opportunity, all right, for us to fix as a system. That person goes to Georgia Regional, they are brought back up to a certain competency level, they're turned back over to us, and when they are, we have 30 days to get them on a trial calendar. On that 31st day, they're no longer competent and they have to go back. But they get in line again to go back to Georgia Regional or go back to have this competency evaluation, and then the cycle repeats itself. And so when a judge has a calendar full of these circumstances and we say, okay, we got this person back, we got 29 days at this point to get them to trial in many instances, not just to court, to trial. Now you got to pick a jury and you got to go through all that again. So the system itself is inherently broken. Yeah, I mentioned that earlier. That was part of the 847 people that we found that had been here a year or longer. Ultimately, to Natalie's point, had they been convicted, they'd probably get 6 months. They probably get probation.
So I want to make sure that I understand. This is key. You have individuals, or you had, or you currently have individuals who have been waiting longer for their trial date, that if they had been convicted sooner, they would be out.
That's in theory,
okay.
Right? Because a judge could have given them 2 years,
right?
But in theory, a judge could have given them probation, right? So that is in theory, but what is a fact is when I first took office, we had 847 people that had been here a year or longer, had not been back to court for a second time. And when I say second time, you get your first appearance within 72 hours. And ultimately, you have the right to have a speedy trial. And we cannot forget a lot of this coming out of COVID, right? So this 90-day indictment period that would normally be the standard was affected, and there were emergency orders that went around from the chief judge to really higher courts in the state that gave DAs and other prosecutors an opportunity to expand upon that 90 days. COVID really exacerbated a currently broken system. I mean, really what we had.
It was broken before.
It was broken before, right. So it was broken before and we put a tourniquet on it, and now it's broken and we got to keep our hand on the tourniquet and run the facility at the same time.
Y'all, I was going to say, let's say goodbye, but I gotta let y'all hear. The commissioner, cause this man acting like they weren't spending all that money. I think it's the commissioner who said they spent all that money that they gave them. I think he's the one who said they mismanaged the money. Let's see. He's not that long. About 30 minutes. Anybody got to go, I understand. It'll just be here on the video.
Well, Mr. Chairman, thank you so much for agreeing to do this.
Let me say this now before we get
yeah.
My take on all this is probably a little different. I'm an outlier. I've been around a long time, so you can.
No, well, that's why I'm sitting down with you, because you've seen it.
And I'm the messenger in this case.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Well, let's talk about, I'd love to get your reaction to some numbers that I have dug up to get your reaction. According to the Superior Court clerk, she pulled some current backlog numbers of cases. Right now, there are a total of 23,000 unindicted and indicted cases that are simply waiting to go to trial. That's a 5,000 increase since just December. In jail, individuals at jail, considering this is the focus of our story, how did we get here? There were a total of 12,000 individuals who were detained at the jail. 1,200 individuals who were detained at the jail just 2 months ago that were simply waiting to be indicted. These are individuals that have not been charged yet. What's your reaction to these numbers?
Well, I'm no expert in the numbers, but I've been around a long time, and there's a lot of finger pointing going on, and the public is very focused on this issue. And here's what elected officials say privately. Here's what the public will tell you and me and the public privately and to each other. That first and foremost, there are around a third of the inmates in our jail shouldn't be there in the first place, meaning they're there for misdemeanors, spitting on the street, small amounts of marijuana, misdemeanors. That's just factual. The criminal justice people, the DA, the solicitor, the judges will say that, well, their latest arrest may just be a misdemeanor, but behind the misdemeanors, they've committed other crimes. That's the reason. Now, I disagree with that.
Well, the numbers that I just got, talking about the misdemeanor numbers, according to the sheriff just last week, of the 3,000 or so individuals detained or in his custody, I think only less than 200 of them were actually charged with misdemeanors.
That's not what I'm told. I mean, when I talk, you say, well, separate misdemeanors and those who are there who just not had their day in court. That's that number that I'm talking about, 800, 1,200. They point fingers at each other all the time. We, the board, we get caught in the middle. We have to try to massage the numbers. Whatever the number is, it's too many. There shouldn't be anyone in that facility who has not been charged. Now, we're talking about building a new jail to solve an overcrowding problem, which is nonsense. If the jail is overcrowded, why is it overcrowded? That's the question that you answered, that needs to be answered.
And I think this story, or at least the data that I have, shows that one of the contributing factors is the backlog of cases. I'm going to throw out some other numbers to you to get your reaction.
I understand the backlog issue. We have given millions of dollars to the criminal justice system to solve the backlog problem. Pre-COVID and during COVID, and we've done a good job with that money in reducing the number of cases. Done a magnificent job. But crime is alive and well. The problem still is with the justice system. It's not the conditions in the jail. The reason for the jail being overcrowded, if we're honest, is that those who are responsible for processing those in jail through the system are not doing their jobs.
Are you talking about the DA and the judges?
I'm talking about the DA, I'm talking about the solicitor, and I'm talking about the judges. And I'm the messenger here. I'm friends with all of them, but you've asked me a direct question, and I told you I was going to be very direct. I'm not saying anything to you that I haven't said to them, and I have not said publicly. The DA needs to indict. She has her priorities. We don't control what the DA does. We don't interfere with what she does, but it's just a fact. There are thousands in that jail who should.
And her priorities, Rico, young thug, taking all his money, and Donald Trump trying to keep him from being president. She's not worried about those people in that jail, and has not been since she's been in office.
Should be processed out of our jail. Same thing for the solicitor. He will have his reasons why. Then the judges. We track, we monitor what the judges do. Some work, some do not. Some come to work at 10 o'clock in the morning, go to lunch at 12, and play golf. We monitor this. The judges who are working come to my office and tell me which ones are working, which ones are not working. And the reason is they can do what they choose to do because the public doesn't care. The public doesn't give a damn. It's the public's fault for when is the last time a judge has been defeated?
So you're saying, what I hear you saying is that the reason why you're blaming the public is because they keep re-electing these individuals.
The same individuals over and over.
So which judges are we
again.
talking about?
Well, I can give you a list of them. What I've tried to get my colleagues here to do, and our county manager, and we post it on our website. But how many people look at a website to look at what a judge I propose? Let's take an ad in the AJC on a weekly basis, a full-page ad, and list what judges are working and which ones are not. Now, they go nuts every time I say that. Why do they go nuts? Because that way, people would look for, instead of going to the sports page, they would go to see what the judges are doing. That's the only way to resolve this problem. We have this thing called a constitutional officers, and that means to some extent that's the DA, the sheriff, Superior Court, a few others. They believe, and the words, legal words probably support them, that no one can tell them what to do except the voters. We, the board, we're not the bosses. We're not the DA's boss. We're not the sheriff's boss. We're not the solicitor's boss. We certainly aren't the judge's boss. Only the people can tell them what to do. We provide the funds for them, and we've been more than generous with the criminal justice system. In fact, probably one of the worst things that happened was when we, Fulton County, received $206 million of that federal money, ARPA money, we call it. And of that money, we gave $75 million of that to the justice system to address this exact problem that you're talking about. And yesterday at our meeting, Commissioner Ellis, Vice Chair Ellis said, and I agree, that in spite of all of that, there's been some progress with some of the pre-COVID caseload backlog. But if you measure what they've done, there has been no measurable increase in them doing their job. So we have a major problem, and the only group that can solve that problem are the voters of Fulton County, period.
So you're saying that despite giving the judiciary, the criminal justice system, $75 million extra
over and above what
that the problem has actually gotten worse?
Well, they've done a little better from the point of view of the total number of backlog cases that there were pre-COVID and since COVID. But I'm talking about now, if you look at what's happening in that jail, they're there. But again, you have to ask the question, why? Why is the jail overcrowded? I mean, obviously crime is alive and well, I'm not denying that. But there are still people, and we can argue about how many, and whether they're misdemeanors or felons or et cetera, but there shouldn't be one person in that jail who shouldn't be there. And and some will blame the Atlanta Police Department and other police departments, but primarily the Atlanta Police Department for arresting people and not taking them to the diversion centers, and the issue of quotas. All of these things, it's always this finger pointing. While we're finger pointing, those of us who are elected, you still have individuals. If it's one, that's too many. Nobody should be in that jail who's not there. Now, we talk about a new jail, and we talk about the conditions of the jail. Well, that's just pure BS. I mean, I can take you in there and show you and take you to the worst cell. There should be no cell should look like the ones that you keep seeing on TV. Well, why is that? Because we let it run down. Why do you let it run down? We want a new jail. I can take you to the federal penitentiary over here on McDonough Boulevard, and I'm very familiar with that because my uncle used to be the deputy warden. What it looked like then and what it looks like today. I mean, it looks like a hospital in there. Get up in arms about this, and I think this story should go a long ways in terms of educating the public about what the problem is. A brand new jail is not going to solve the problem. Management in that jail.
I'm going to throw out other numbers that I'd like to get your reaction. As of last week, there were 19 people who have been in the jail waiting 5 years or longer for their trial. 142 individuals, 90 people who've been in 13 years. He is in the jail right now, and he has waited more than 13 years for his trial date. What's your reaction?
I can believe it. It's not the Board of Commissioners' fault.
Knowing that these backlogs exist, would a new jail matter?
Absolutely not. If the people who are in charge of processing people through that jail, if they're not doing their jobs, we can put them in the Ritz-Carlton, for example, color TVs in each room, whatever. If the folk who have the responsibility for processing them from the jail to the courts, you talk to them, it's this finger pointing once again, but the facts are and the numbers don't lie.
And you're talking about specifically the DA's office and judges. You're talking about that processing of getting them to trial and out of the jail. Is that what you're saying?
That's correct. But it's not, and don't leave out the solicitor. Now, the sheriff will argue that he has to manage them while they're in the jail, and he's short of deputies, which is probably true. Every deputy is short of deputies in the country. That's just a problem we have to deal with, but there's still a management problem in our jail, in my judgment.
Is there anything that the county could be doing anything more? I know that you've said that the county commission has allocated $75 million in COVID funding to help alleviate. You're saying it's not making that big of a difference?
It made a difference from the point of view of reducing some of those cases, but overall, I don't think it's made a difference.
I mean, the numbers show that they've increased. I mean, as of December, there were 18,000 total indicted and unindicted cases. It's risen 5,000 as of just in August.
You got to process them. I mean, we keep arresting them. You just can't have people sitting here. ACLU and others will tell you, I mean, they're very adamant about this, that we got people who shouldn't be there in the first place. And that's probably true.
Do we need more judges? Do we need more prosecutors?
Another judge could probably help, but more important is judges who work. Judges who work. And we know which ones work and which ones do not. It's public information. We track it.
Which ones don't?
We place it. Well, I'm going to give you, you can look at it for yourself. Okay. Post it.
So you're saying there are judges simply not doing their jobs.
Absolutely.
And this is contributing to the problem.
Absolutely. And the reason I know this is because we track it, and other judges call me or come here and tell me that they get, criticize. They're doing their jobs, but their fellow judges are not.
And these are elected judges?
Yes. So who do you blame? Can't blame the Board of Commissioners. You blame the folk who vote for them.
Well,
and once they're in, they're in.
Why not just place the blame on the individuals, not the public? I mean, the public is, as you know, there is very little scrutiny about what judges do.
That's correct. And therein lies the problem. And therein lies the
Yeah.
problem. There should be, and I think that this story, I think is going to go a long ways in helping the public to understand that I've spoke to the Chamber of Commerce this morning, had the same story. And you sit there, you know, big fat cats in suits and complain, but you keep contributing to these same men and women. They get elected and reelected, and the situation doesn't get any better. And a new facility does not solve the overcrowding problem. Just as this jail reportedly, the day that it opened, it was outdated. When we build this new $2 billion jail, $1.8 billion, it's going to be outdated.
The day it opens.
The day it opens. Crime is alive and well.
I profiled, or we covered 2 different court cases that really illustrate this issue that I'd love to get your thoughts on both ends of the spectrum of the consequences of waiting so long in jail for your trial date. There was a gentleman who waited, his name is A.D.A. Sanders. He waited almost 10 years for his trial date. He was
That's unconscionable. How does someone charged with processing people who have been accused, not tried and convicted yet, accused of a crime? How do you live with yourself?
He was ultimately convicted. We spoke to the family of the victims who have been waiting years for justice, that were frustrated with this delay. On the flip side of this, there's a gentleman that we spoke with and covered his trial. His name is D'Anthony Tolbert. He waited in the jail 4.5 years for his trial date, and in July, he was found not guilty by jury.
That's my point. No one should be in there longer than the law requires them without having their case heard. It's just unconscionable. How do you live with yourself?
When you hear these stories, do you think that we have a constitutional crisis?
Well, I'd say you can call it and put whatever label you want to put on it, but until you force those who have that responsibility to do their jobs, we have a problem. And it goes back to they're elected, and once you're elected, you have the freedom to do pretty much anything you want to do. People point to, and the reason we get concerned, because it's the Fulton County Jail. It carries the name of Fulton County. We're the Board of Commissioners of Fulton County, so the public believes that we control what they do, that we are their bosses. Nothing could be further from the truth, and they remind us of that every day. You are not my boss. You are to give us the money to do our jobs, which we do, but the results, listen to what Vice Chair Ellis had to say yesterday.
Does the district attorney's office play a part in this as well? And I ask that because she's been criticized for taking these very large, multi-defendant cases, indictments. There's the YSL trial, there's the election interference trial, these multiple defendant trials that she has said publicly that she wants to take the trial sooner than later, meaning take from indictment to trial within months. While there are defendants in the jail who have been charged with more serious crimes, murder, that have been waiting years for their trial. Is that fair, and do you think that the district attorney plays a part into this as well?
I've said, I'm a district attorney, solicitor, and the judges. Now, we don't tell them what to do. She has discretion of how she runs her office. Her predecessor had discretion of how he ran that office. The next district attorney, unless the law changes, will have discretion as to how that office is run. It's the district attorney, it's the solicitor, and the judges. We do not control how they run their offices. She can choose to prosecute whoever she chooses to prosecute. I may have a different opinion, and they're talking about this as the state now as to, well, we can't. It always comes back to they are elected and they can run their offices as they see fit, and that's what they do.
I think they will push back, or at least the sheriff so far.
They are going. Each one is going to push back and say, you know, they have the discretion to run their offices as they see fit, and that's what they're doing. You can't argue with that. I just disagree with the results.
They'll not only say that, I believe, but what at least the sheriff has told me so far is that they'll say this problem existed before I was elected. Same thing with the DA. Same thing with the judges, that there was a backlog before they were elected and currently. So is it their fault now, or is it years of it coming to a head? And the pandemic sort of exposed the problem that already existed in a way that I'd never seen before.
The buck stops with the person who's in the position now. When you run for these positions, you make promises. You should know what the conditions are. You can't blame everything on your predecessor. You have to deal. What's that Kenny Rogers song? Got to deal, play the hand you're dealt, and stop complaining. It's just like when they get in office one day and then 2 weeks later they want a salary increase. Well, you know what the salary was before you ran. We're the largest county in the state. I should be paid more than my counterparts in counties with smaller populations. You know what your job is, at least you should know before you run. The voters vote for people because they go to the same, they worship together. The kids go to school together. The kids play soccer together. They were fraternity brothers. They were sorority sisters. The voters are at fault in all of this, from my perspective, for electing and re-electing the same people. If you get these same results, it's your fault. And I have to get back to that.
I mean, that might be a hard pill to swallow for viewers and the public, thinking, well, we expect you to do better. Don't blame us for simply trusting you to do the job.
Not the Board of Commissioners. We're talking about now the DA, solicitor, and the judges. We don't run the jail. We don't indict people. We don't charge people. None of that. We're trying to solve a problem by providing the resources, which we have been very generous with.
Is there anything
and that's that we get, again, in addition to the regular, what we do from a general fund point of view, that's the largest portion of our budget goes to the criminal justice system. But in addition to that, we gave, of the $206 million that we received, which I probably wish we never had gotten from the federal government, $75 million without any discussion, gave it to those in charge of what we refer to as our criminal justice partners to address this problem. There were some successes, but your numbers indicate, ours numbers indicate, there is a problem. And if there's one person in that jail who should not be there, that's one too many. If you're the loved one, and I've had people, in fact, I may have one still in our jail, so I know from what I'm talking about.
If money isn't fixing the problem, what needs to be done?
Different people in the offices. Goes back to the electorate. People vote for these people in these positions, and they have different priorities. I mean, the circumstances change. I mean, you know, I don't know how I would have handled the Trump situation, the YSL situation. I probably would have been a little more favorable to getting rid of those who've been sitting there forever. And that's the problem you have to deal with. And I'm sure that the DA wrestled with this. I mean, if we could double her staff, maybe that would help.
Has she asked for that?
Not double, but we've given her that extra $75 million. Sheriff wants a new jail. I don't think a new jail solves the problem. And I can't have to say this. Right across the street, spitting distance from here, is what's called the ACDC, Atlanta City Detention Center. commonly known as a city jail. 1,300 beds. Before we entered into this agreement with the jail, they were using probably 25 of those beds a night. 1,300 beds. Our agreement with them now, after a fight, they allow us, the city of Atlanta allows us to use up to 700 of those beds. We pay for it and we have to staff it. I've offered to buy that jail. The council, they want to tear it down and build a diversion center. It would be a travesty to tear down a perfectly usable facility right across the street from where we are conducting this interview when we need those beds now and will need them in the future. Why in the world would you even think about tearing that jail down and spend $1.8 to $2 billion, and that's just on the construction of a new jail when you got 1,300 beds right across the street that we can use. Sell the damn jail to us now, and we wouldn't need to build a new jail. Renovate Rice Street, which we can do. Stop showing the worst cells in that jail to the public. So the public, and this guy who died with a bug infestation, how in the world can you have deputies who are supposed to be monitoring the inmates? If you just got one deputy monitoring these cells hourly, daily, can that happen for weeks at a time? And someone not look in a cell and see what's going on? To me, that's management. And we paid dearly for it, and there's more coming.
You don't have any control over the criminal justice system, what the DA's office does, what the judges do.
We don't have control, but we provide the funds.
So you manage the purse strings.
That's correct, and we've been very generous.
And I guess what I'm getting at is like, have you been appropriating funds inappropriately where they're asking you for money, you give it to them, and it's still not working? Like, when do you get to the point where you say, we keep giving you money, but the results aren't changing?
That's what was said at the meeting yesterday, loudly and clearly by Vice Chair Ellis. We provided the funds. What are the results? We've been more than generous with the funds. And in fact, in some cases, we will provide funds for purpose A, but they're spent on purpose B. And the
What's an example? What do you mean A and what's the A and what's the B?
I mean, well, let's say one of these sheriff comes to us and say he wants money for more officers. We give it to him. Well, he may use it for some other purpose that he feels has more of a pressing need. And the reason for this goes back to when we talk about a constitutional officer. They believe that once we give them money, they have the freedom to spend that money as they see fit to do their jobs. And the law probably, I don't agree with the law, the words probably support their position. But I just philosophically do not believe that the sheriff or the DA can spend the money that we appropriate any way that they see fit. I think that money needs to be spent based upon the reasons that we appropriate the money to them in the first place, based upon when they come before us and request money for a specific purpose, and we grant it, that's what it should be used for.
So the conversations that you're having with the judges, with the DA's office, with the sheriff, what are they telling you is the contributing factors to this backlog and the issue that ultimately lands at the jail? Like, what are they telling you is the issue and the resources they need?
Well, they say they're working hard, which is not true, not for all of them. Some are. Some take their jobs very seriously and work very hard. Others do not. And the answer to this problem is not a new facility. I have to get back to that. And it's also releasing those who shouldn't be in our jail in the first place. They know who they are.
So you don't want a new jail, and you're advocating not to build a new jail?
I don't think we need a new jail. Okay. I think we can renovate what we have in the first place. If we release those who shouldn't be there in the first place, and we purchased the Atlanta City Jail. We have the Union City Jail, which could and should have been renovated. We spent money renovating the jail in Alpharetta. It has, I think, 50 plus beds up there. How many people do you think are in that jail? 2 or 3 a night? Misdemeanor stuff.
So let's say the city never sells the jail, never rents out or leases it out, and the jail conditions remain the same.
Well, the conditions, I mean, we're constantly renovating that jail.
Mm-hmm.
But you start with releasing those who shouldn't be there. And I'm no expert in this, but the numbers say, and those who are experts say, that there is about a third of them who could be released. That solves the overcrowding problem right there, if that's true.
And when you say release, you mean either simply releasing them, free them, put them in diversion programs, or sending them to the prison after they're assuming.
That's correct. And
the other thing
we've not talked about is that there are any number of them who have mental health problems. And that's another problem. That's where the state has a role to play in this. We're all in agreement on this, that we're the largest mental health institution in the state of Georgia.
The sheriff told me that too.
Combined with all of, and that's a problem where the state needs to do more with respect to mental health. We're doing our part with that. We're opening a new facility here that we're putting money in, and thanks to the state, that's really a joint venture between us and the state, but that's just a start. But there's any number of inmates, and it's probably true for all jails, they have either substance abuse problems or mental health problems who shouldn't be there because of that. So that's another group that could be released, but where do they go? Now we're going to make a small dent in that based upon our investment in the facility right down the road called Oak Hill, but the state needs to do more, and the governor and the Jan Jones, Representative Jan Jones, helped us this year, and so we're very grateful for that. But that's another part of the problem, those inmates who have mental health problems. They don't need to be in a Fulton County jail.
So that's part of that third that you're talking about.
That's right.
What are we not talking about as it specifically relates to how the backlog is impacting the jail? What are we not talking about?
What are we not talking about?
Is there anything that we're not talking about?
Not at all. We covered it.
Okay.
Yeah, we covered it.
Is there anything that you think the public misunderstands that you want to add clarity to when it involves this issue?
They misunderstand at the Board of Commissioners that we are the bosses of the DA, the sheriff, and the judges. Nothing can be further from the truth, and not a day goes by when they don't remind us of that. Our job is to provide them with the funds that they need, and which we do very generously. In fact, we appropriated again $75 million of the $206 million that we received in ARPA COVID funds from the federal government, specifically to the Justice Department. And according to my vice chair, who's done great research in this area, and nobody disagrees with his findings in terms of the number of unindicted. We may differ. We say, I've heard the DA say that's 800, we say 1,200. We argue about whether they're felons or misdemeanor charges, and whether or not if you're in there for a misdemeanor, there may be a felony charge behind the misdemeanor. The most recent charge may be a misdemeanor, so we're more concerned about the felon charge. All of that may be true, but my point is, if there's one person in there who shouldn't be in there, that's one too many. All right.
Thank you, Chairman.
All right, appreciate you. Anytime.
Okay, I'm coming on camera. Hey, everybody. Yeah, Regina, the thing of it is that the people, I was about to write it in the chat, but the people who need to be protesting don't know they have a need to protest, and the people that are doing good, they're benefiting from these people misdeeds. So they don't care because their needs are being met. A lot of people don't realize the power lie in the people, but they think that it doesn't, because so many times you get shot down on every end, and if you don't study, then you don't know. And it's no excuse, but it is what it is. And it's like this all over in our communities because we don't know we have a voice. We don't know the Constitution, and we certainly don't know the state constitution. But the state legislature needs to change their laws because that's what they're going by. And if you notice, when Fani was up there acting a fool on the witness stand, and when she was writing Jim Jordan, one thing that she let him know that she's a constitutional officer. So that they should know that she knows that nothing's going to be done to her. When they were going to do the ethics hearing, it's nothing they can do because they're the ethics committee for the county. She's not a county employee. So it's nothing they can do. It has to go to the state. And again, the federal government is just going to come over and take over their jail system. That's what's going to end up happening. Okay, but see, this is the thing. They gave them the $75 million to address those issues, but once they get the money, they say they can do with it what they want to. That's what happened to the whistleblower, if y'all recall, the girl that she fired with that grant that they got from the government. That was as a result of the C-19. And they got this money. They supposed to have been doing a facility for the youth. And y'all heard me read that she talking about what she was going to do for the youth. She's not going to do anything for anybody. Once she get the money, she spends it the way she see fit. The sheriff is doing the same thing, and apparently the solicitor is too. So it's just a mess. But, you know, it's just like the city girl. In all these cities, these women are running these cities in the ground, and they all are Asiatic, and they're being paid to do this. And this is just going to be another way to keep us out for another 100 years. Unless the people wake up. And you can't tell people nothing because they don't want to believe you. They think that you don't know what you're talking about. So it's very hard to get a people that are asleep to wake up. You know, they all stuck on Martin Luther King's dream. Remember, they're in Atlanta. So all they hear is about is Pastor King, Reverend King, Dr. King had a dream. Just like when she went to that church and lied, stood up in the pulpit and lied. And then she went to sounding like she was a preacher and lied. And those people were clapping and they were happy. So we got to listen to what these people are saying. They're pandering to the people. The people don't know. Half of them scared to say something because they probably ain't doing everything right. So they think somebody gonna come get them. So it's just a ball of confusion. And Charlene said, let me see what's happening because I've seen some stuff up here. Okay, I'm over there. One other thing ain't going up. Okay, there it is. Okay, Charlene said the $75 million should have been first used to address the expedite the processing of the backlog of cases. Should have been. At Regina M. They must be because the sheriff is now asking for a TPO on the activist L.A. Pink because they must be causing an earthquake in the city. And her name is L.A. Pink, and it's Street Boomers or something like that. Let me try to find her and put her link in here. I think it's Street Boomers. I saw her on But Dana, maybe street groomers. It's street something. It's not boomers. L.A. Pink. Okay, here she is. Let me get her link and drop it in there, and y'all can check her out. Cause yeah, she got a grassroots group, and they trying their best to handle up on the business. Hold on, y'all. I'm gonna put it down there. And I think Atlanta News First, that's where we got that information that I was sharing with you guys tonight. And so for all that our people don't know to do, we just got to try to help them the best way we can. And that's support them and get the story out. That's all we can do, because we can't vote. We can't help them. Thank you, Regina. I appreciate that. Yeah, I got it in there now, Charlene. I appreciate that, y'all. Let me try to go over here to my page. Hold on a second. Y'all, I don't want y'all to feel any kind of way like you gotta come in here or nothing, but I'm gonna make you all I'm going to make you guys moderators. And I just do that for people that support me. It's nothing new you got to do. You ain't got to show up every time. I would love for everybody to show up, but sometimes you just have stuff to do. So don't worry about none of that. Not with me, anyway. Who knows? One day we might get big as all New York. We may stay exactly the way we are. And I will be all right with that. But one thing we do is we try to support the people that support us. At least I do. And like I said, if you can give a cash app, give a cash app. If you can give a super chat, give a super chat. If you can't give either one, make sure you hit the like. Maybe even share it with somebody. But we just try to have fun and learn some stuff over here. That's what we try to do. We just try to have fun and I gotta stop that right there. There you go. I'm looking for my chat. Oh, there it is. Yeah, we just do our best over here to help each other out. Oh, it gave me an option there. I don't know how to put it back up there. And if y'all don't want to be, then that's fine. let me know. I'll be happy to take you out. This is nothing, just you have the ability to drop a link, or you can block somebody. And I let people use their mind. Anybody disrespectful, I don't mind somebody coming in trying to I don't mind nobody coming in trying to troll, because that's what these people do a lot. But if they say disrespectful and nasty stuff, then we get rid of them. We don't deal with them. I don't see Tasha. Tasha, if you in here, say something, because I don't see you. I don't see you, Tasha. Yeah, y'all. So we've had a real good evening, and we've seen that Fani's interview before. I did that once before, but we've seen Fani, but we haven't seen. Y'all haven't seen the judge. So go look at the judge. That's the judge who's on Young Thug. Charlene, say something so I can see, because I thought I did. Do you? I just haven't seen Tasha. Yeah. And like I said, if y'all don't want a wrench, that's fine. Y'all just let me know and we'll get rid of them. Yeah, but I just do that as a courtesy because you all support me. And so that's how I can support you guys. So it means a lot. Thank you, Charlene. It means a lot to me whenever you show up. But we've kind of knocked them out the box. So I have something good for y'all on Wednesday. Maybe y'all can tell me about the clips coming up. And remember to hit the like button and consider becoming a member. It helps me support my channel. It really does. The likes really help. And if you share the video, if you have a community wall, you can share it on your community wall, or you can just share it with a friend or an enemy. Send it to them and say, look at this woman. However you want to do it is fine with me. But I have totally enjoyed this night. We're going to get ready to close out, and I'm going to close out with my favorite little old song, and that will be The Children Are Our Future. Well, I think I'm going to play Money, Money, Money first, because that's what these people are all about, money. They don't really care about the people, the voters. They make all of these promises, and they do that all over, so we know how that works. That's no big deal. But the sad part about it is that we are not engaged enough, and we're not interested in finding out just what we can do. We really do have power, but we don't understand it. So those that we don't understand, we don't even get involved in. But I mean, if the children are really our future, we have got to. Oh, okay, Angela, you want to hear old Funny beg for old? I had one to sound better than this. I might remake this over. And I had deleted it, but I made it. But let me find it. Here it goes. Sisters, have you ever found yourself in a tumultuous relationship when your broken heart is telling you to stay, but your mind is telling you to leave? If so, this song is dedicated to you. And I am telling you, I'm not going. You're the best man I'll ever know. There's no way I could ever go. No, 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 no way. No, 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 no way I'm living without you. I'm not living without you. I don't want to be free. I'm staying, and you're gonna love me. Oh, love me. You're gonna love me. And I am telling you, I'm not going, even though the rough times are showing. There's just no way, there's no way. We're part of the same place. We're part of the same time. We both share the same blood. We both have the same mind. And time we've had so much to share. No, 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 no. I'm not waking up tomorrow morning and finding that there's nobody there. Darling, there's no way. No, 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 no way I'm living without you. I'm not living without you. You see, there's just no way. There's no way. Tear down the mountains, yell, scream, and shout. You can say what you want. I'm not walking out. Stop all the rivers, push, strike, and kill. I'm not gonna leave you. There's no way I will. And I am telling you, I'm not going. You're the best man I'll ever know. There's no way I can ever go. No, 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 no way. No, 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 no way I'm living without you. I'm not living without you. Not living without you. I don't want to be free. I'm staying, and you're gonna love me. You're gonna love me, yes you are. Ooh, ooh, love me. Ooh, 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 love me. Love me. Love me. Love me. You're gonna love me. Regina, I think it's like Deion Sanders said, must be the money that's blowing their mind. Must be the money. They sitting wasting time. Hey, must be the money. That's the only reason they in the meetings, because they ain't in no meetings because they try to change nothing. They just sitting there so they can say, well, at least we were in the meeting. You're welcome, Angela. And let's go with my little children. I believe the children are our future. Teach them well and let them lead the way. Show them all the beauty they possess inside. Give them a sense of pride to make it easier. Let the children's laughter remind us who we used to be. Everybody's searching for a hero. People need someone to look up to. I never found anyone to fulfill my needs. A lonely place to be. So I learned to depend on me. I decided long ago never to walk in anyone's shadow. If I failed, if I succeed, at least I'll live as I believe. No matter what they take from me, they can't take away my dignity, because the greatest love of all is happening to me. I found the greatest love of all inside of me. The greatest love of all is easy to achieve. Learning to love yourself is the greatest love of all. And if by chance that special place that you've been dreaming of takes you to a lonely place, find yourself in love.
Your face. You got to remove the excess water. Now she's coming
This
out.
is how you do it.
Thank you.